Vedanta Book, Part 3, Chapter 1, Truth Revealed by Vedas. Vedas and Vedantas, what do they tell us? What do they proclaim for us? Vedas explain to us how to lead a living in accordance with righteous principles. What is Jiva? Individual self. Who is Ishvara? Supreme self. How did the so-called Prapancha, universe, which consists of various worlds, come into existence? How did the Panchabhuta, 5 elements, evolve? Vedas convey all these information. Having explained all these, what do Vedas expect from us? Vedas explain. So I listen to it. I don't know anything directly. I can understand what Vedas explain. I accept it as Vedic truth. These are not my experiences. Do Vedas expect us to say like this? I have learnt by my own experience and verify what Vedas explain. All these Vedic teachings are perceivable by me directly in its real sense. Do Vedas expect us to say like this? How can we directly know how Ishvara, God and Prapancha came into existence? Do we need to acquire the supernatural powers such as the power to sense and the vision to comprehend, which is called ESP, extrasensory perception, by practicing yoga and meditation? How did birth come into existence? How did karma come into existence? How did papa and punya, sin and virtues, come into existence? Do we need to know all these through such extraordinary vision? If Vedas insist us to attain this peculiar vision, they need to only teach us how to attain that vision. If we have attained that vision, there is no need to prepare a list to know what all we can learn. What is the use of describing repeatedly to a person with closed eyes about what all he can view if he otherwise opens his eyes? If he opens his eyes, he himself would know. Vedas do not teach in terms of attaching significance to such a practice. Vedas do not teach in terms of attaching significance to attaining such a vision. Vedas do address how God came into existence, how the Panchabhuta came into existence, and how the Sthula, Sukshma, Karana Shariras, gross, subtle, causal bodies and Prapancha came into existence. It is enough if we just acknowledge them as they are. Vedas have not provided any responsibility to us to research and find out whether these are true or false. Suppose we are going to the railway station to receive an unfamiliar person coming by train. We have not seen him earlier. He is about 6 feet tall, with fair complexion, without moustache, aged about 50 years. His hair is slightly greyed. He will be wearing spectacles always. We have been provided with the identification marks of that person like this. We are waiting at the railway station expecting this man. In that situation, a person sitting nearby speaks to us about in which year the railway station was built, under whose government it was built, what changes and developments were carried out later, etc. Like this, he is informing us about the historical details of the railway station. There is no relevance between the person who is arriving in the train and the historical facts about the railway station. Just to pass the time, we can listen to it. At that time, train has come and all the passengers are alighting. Now, we become busy in searching the person whom we wanted to receive. If involved in a debate as to whether the railway station was built during the reign of King George II or King George I, instead of finding the person whom we came in search of, we will miss the person. The person who has to be found is of primary importance. Rest are all of secondary details. Similarly, universal truths revealed by Vedas are secondary details only. Then, what is the main truth revealed and indicated by Vedas? On the basis of Vedas, what is the predominant truth to be known by us? Who am I? What is my real nature? These are the main truths to be known by us. This is the main truth revealed by Vedas. Vedas and Vedanta Shastras explain who am I. They clarify what our Swarupa, natural state is. Through this, we need to understand and realize who am I. Our Swarupa, natural state is neither the mind nor the body. It is Atma Swarupa, ever pure blissful consciousness. This is what is told by Vedas. Vedas expect us to understand as it is. How to understand this? How should we know that our real nature is the nature of the Atma? Will the Vedas lie? What Vedas reveal must be true. Hence, I believe what Vedas convey as true. I do not know if I am the Atma or not. As I have accepted the revelations of Veda, I am the Atma. Otherwise, I do not know anything about me. Is it right for us to say like this? Do Vedas say that it is enough if we know to this extent? Is that what Vedas expect from us? We are visiting a dentist to check our tooth. Doctor inquires about the problem in the tooth. We reply to the doctor, "Doctor, my mother says that I have toothache." Doctor replies, "Let your mother say so. Do you have toothache?" We further reply, "I do not know anything, doctor. My mother does not lie. I believe in what she says, so I must be having toothache." If we reply in this manner, how will it be? Do Vedas expect a reply like this from us? I do not know whether I am the Atma or not. As I believe in Vedas, as per the teachings of Vedas, I believe that I am the Atma. Is it enough if we say this? Do Vedas expect from us like this? Let us come back to the dentist example. We tell the doctor, "I have pain in the left side of the lower posterior teeth." Doctor asks, "How many teeth have the pain?" We reply to him, "All the teeth have pain, doctor. I am not able to point out particularly." Now, the doctor examines our left side teeth in the bottom row by pressing them one by one. When the aching tooth is pressed, the pain increases. The doctor finds out the tooth which caused the pain. Even though the pain appeared to be there in all the teeth, only one tooth has been the cause for the whole pain. The doctor could find out the problematic tooth only when he diagnosed by pressing each tooth one by one. Who has found out the problematic tooth? Is it the doctor or us? Tooth was pressed by the doctor and the pain was felt by us. Here, there is involvement by both. It is the responsibility of the Vedas to indicate what is Atma. It is our responsibility to understand it experientially. When the doctor checks the teeth by pressing them one by one, it is our duty to sense and tell him which tooth causes pain when pressed. Likewise, under the guidance of Vedas, we have to perceive and understand ourselves that we are the Atma. The way we understand which one is the painful tooth and which one is the painless tooth, we have to understand in ourselves what Atma is and what Anatma, non-self, is. We have to understand what Atma is. Vedas teaches only this. Vedas impose this particular responsibility, work, duty on us. Vedas talk about many things. Vedas give lots of information. They do not insist that it is essential for us to understand all the details. We have to understand who am I. We have to understand that I am the Atma and not Anatma. Vedas put forth only this stipulation in front of us. Vedas and Vedantas, their commentaries and the sub-commentaries altogether have become an ocean. You might have heard the story of Tenali Rama, a wise minister in the royal court of King Krishnadevaraya. Once, a well-versed Vedanta scholar came for a debate at King Krishnadevaraya's royal court. Being a connoisseur of scriptures, wherever he went, the unrivaled scholar won all the debates. All the scholars in the king's royal court were worried and afraid. They all absconded much before the debate started. The king was clueless on how to face this scholar. The king sought the help of Tenali Rama. Tenali Rama did not fear at all. He told the king very boldly, "Your Highness, don't worry. As far as I know, I am the only one who knows about the scripture called Tilakashta Mahisha Bandhana. So, undoubtedly, I would win the debate by presenting all the truths revealed by that scripture." The Vedanta scholar presented himself with hesitation at the king's royal court. Tenali Rama covered and decorated a huge bunch of manuscripts with silk cloth and laid a garland on the bunch and made it to be brought in a palanquin. Looking at this, the scholar became scary. A scripture like this? That too this big? I have never seen or heard about such a huge scripture. The Vedanta scholar thought like this and was shaken with fear. The fear of possible defeat created more scare for him. So he pleaded with the king, "O respected king, in the whole of scriptures that I have learned from my Guru Master, I have not come across such a scripture. What I have learnt is as big as a mere handful of sand. What I have not learnt is as big as the size of the universe." Confessing this way, the scholar accepted his defeat and fled from the palace without even debating. It was a big amazement for the king. The king felt great respect towards Tenali Rama, as he seemed to have learned such a scripture that even the well-versed Vedanta scholar had not learnt. The king also wanted to get a glimpse of the bunch of those special manuscripts. Tenali Rama brought the covered bunch from the palanquin, removed the cloth cover and showed it to the king. Dry branches of ginjali plant had been tied with the ropes that were used to tie buffalo. Tilakashta means dry ginjali plant. Mahisha Bandhana means rope used to tie buffalo. By combining both the words, he had named the scripture as Tilakashta Mahisha Bandhana. With the increasing number of Vedanta scriptures, it was no surprise when the scholar assumed that there may also be a scripture called Tilakashta Mahisha Bandhana. Be whatever the number of scriptures, Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, overall, all these convey only one absolute truth, that our natural state is Atma Swarupa, the ever pure blissful consciousness. We have to perceive and understand it. This is the one and only great truth revealed by all the Vedas to humanity. Chapter 2. Atma Sakshatkar. I am Atma. My natural state is Atma Swarupa. I am neither the body nor the mind. I am not Anatma. I am Atma. Vedas, Upanishads and all Vedanta scriptures convey the same message. Since these scriptures together proclaim this, have we realized ourselves as Atma? Is it possible to know like this? Are there any instructions and techniques also available to know this? How do we recognize the great truth, I am Atma? How can we find that all that exists as Anatmas, non-self, are not Atma? Is it enough to learn all the scriptures? Is it enough to debate and understand all the concepts of scripture? Here, how do Vedanta scriptures guide us? None of us are qualified enough to excel in the study of Vedanta scriptures. Hence, learning Vedanta scriptures ourselves and understanding it through self-study is not possible. Shastras declare so. Then, how can we realize the absolute reality? we are not qualified enough to understand. How can we understand this ultimate truth? The scriptures itself says that Vedanta scriptures must be learnt and understood through a real guru, real master. If we learn by ourselves, we would understand it haphazardly. It must be only through a guru we should learn how to understand. Who is a guru? What kind of a guru he must be? Should he be the one who is well versed in all the scriptures and who has won all the related debates? Or should he be the one who has realized the Atma and who would always be firmly established in the knowledge of self? Should he be an Atma Bodha? Scriptures define two qualifications for a guru. One who knows and is well versed in all the Shastras, Shrotriya Nishtaha. Secondly, he must be always firmly established and be living in the Atma, Brahman, that is, Brahmanishtaha. These are the qualifications defined by Vedic scriptures. The Guru Master must be a self-realized one who is firmly established in the knowledge of the absolute reality. He must be a Brahmanishtaha. Then only he becomes qualified to teach others. But only that is not enough. He must be capable of expressing it in a language that is easily understood by others. So, he has to be well versed in knowledge of Shastras, scriptures too. By choosing such a Brahmanishtaha, we have to understand and realize our natural state, the Atma. Let us assume that we have got a qualified master. Now, what should we study? We have to develop our capability to understand who am I. Developing our qualification is the only lesson that we need to learn. In the name of Sadhana Chatushtaya, a fourfold qualification that consists of 9 types of disciplines are given. Chatushtaya means 4. We have already seen these details in the first part of this book. They are as follows. The Sadhana Chatushtaya are Viveka, wisdom; Vairagya, detachment from worldly pressures; Shat Sampat, the sixfold virtue; Mumukshatva, the desire for liberation. Shat Sampat, the sixfold virtues are Sama, mastery of the mind; Dhamma, mastery over the senses; Uparama, withdrawal; Titiksha, forbearance; Shraddha, faith; Samadhana, concentration. Among these, Viveka, intelligence, and Vairagya, detachment from worldly pressures, are of primary importance. These two aspects are of great importance as they help us to understand who am I. All other disciplines such as Sama, Dhamma, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana, and Mumukshatva are required only as a help to the primary aspects of Viveka and Vairagya. Viveka, intelligence, is nothing but the understanding of what is Nitya, eternal, and what is Anitya, transient. Proper understanding results in differentiating between Atma and Anatma, Nitya and Anitya. Nitya is Atma, Anitya is Anatma. Viveka is to differentiate and understand that Atma alone is eternal and Anatma is transient. Getting detached from Anatmas, transient things, and firmly established in the eternal blissful consciousness is called Atma Sakshatkar, direct awareness of the self. Even though we differentiate and understand all Anatmas, still we are attracted by the pleasures of the senses, which are Anitya, transient by nature. The detachment from such pleasures is Vairagya. With the help of Vairagya, when the mind does not pursue after the pleasures of the senses, then it turns towards the self. In that state, we attain Atma Sakshatkar. Those who have deep reverence and attachment towards the Vedic scriptures may please pardon me. To attain Atma Sakshatkar through Viveka and Vairagya is a route of deception. It is a drama well written for a good purpose and well played with good intention. Those who practice Viveka and Vairagya in search of Atma Sakshatkar persistently would certainly end up in disappointment for certain. A story goes like this. A rich businessman had a son. He was born with a silver spoon. He lived a life devoid of hardship and worries. He was accompanied by friends with dreadful habits and despicable behavior. Due to the bad conduct of his son, the broken-hearted businessman passed away very soon. On his deathbed, the businessman called his son and said, "My dear son, your way of life and conduct is not good. Your friends are also outrageous. I trust upon you and hand over all of our wealth to you. Don't lose the wealth by getting trapped with your disgraceful friends. In case a situation arises wherein you disregard my advices and because of your bad company you lose all the wealth, become indebted and you are forced to even sell the house, then you go to the next room and open the box placed there. Read the manuscript in the box and act in accordance with what is said in the script. Till that time, don't open the room." Delivering his last advice, he handed over the key of the room and passed away. The son didn't pay attention to his father's advice. Due to his bad conduct and companions, his business came to stand still. His wealth started deteriorating. He was pushed to a state of borrowing money from others. All his friends, whom he had trusted by thinking that they would be of help, ran away from him. He was left alone. The debt burden started tightening up his neck. Wherever he sought help, he was shunned away. He decided to sell the house and settle the debts partially. When he thought of running away from the town, he remembered his father's last advice. He thought, "My father might have shown some way to recover from this distressful situation. At least hereafter let me listen to his words." Thinking so, he decided to obey his father's advice. Then he opened the room, found the box and started reading the manuscript. This was written in the letter. "My dear son, you are so unlucky. When I died, I left with you an unlimited wealth and a profitable business. Only when you lost all, you would have understood whom to trust and whom not to, whom to mingle with and whom not to. Now, the debt may be beyond redemption. Whatever you know now is of no use to you. You cannot clear all the debt even if you sell the house. You can't start a new business. You have to hide yourself like a thief from the lenders. Hence, you can't achieve anything now. So, it is better to commit suicide, that too in this house where you lived happily. I have placed a rope to hang yourself in this room. You commit suicide with the help of that rope, die and join us in the other world." He expected some help from his father but was disappointed. So, he decided to commit suicide as per his father's advice, finding no other choice. He also felt suicide is the only way. That was the scale to which he had been humiliated by the betrayals. As per his father's request, he hanged himself in the rope. When he thought that his life had come to an end, the hanging rope, due to his weight, untied him instead of tightening his neck. At that moment, the ceiling door where the rope had been tied opened up and precious diamonds started to pour upon him. By the value of those precious diamonds, he can even buy the whole town. The hanging rope blessed him like this. Viveka and Vairagya aspects of sadhana, the spiritual disciplines, have been taught in such a way that they lead us to commit suicide. Through these, what treasures are we going to get? Are we going to attain the treasure of Atma Sakshatkar? For sure, we are going to get the treasure. But that would not be Atma Sakshatkar, direct awareness of self. Are the qualifications like Sadhana Chatushtaya mere gimmicks? No, they are correct. But it is the Atma Sakshatkar that we are going to attain. It's a gimmick. It is the act of knowing the Atma which is a gimmick. What is it that we are going to attain through the sadhana chatushtaya if they are correct? What is it that we are going to perceive if the Atma can't be perceived? Already we have read the story of a businessman. Similarly, there was another businessman. He had 3 sons. He had unlimited wealth. Based on the character and quality of his sons, his wealth had to be shared. How to share? He had written a will and died. He had 7 horses. In his will, he had mentioned how to share the 7 horses among his 3 sons. He had also mentioned that whoever is doing the apportionment should divide his other properties too equally among his 3 sons. He not only indicated the horses to be shared equally, but he had also mentioned that half of the share should reach first son, half of what the eldest gets should go to the second son, and half of what the second son gets should go to the third son. How to divide the horses like this? But this is how it had been mentioned in the will. If we give half of the 7 horses to the first son, he would get 3.5 horses. If half of this should be given to the second son, then the second son would get 1 3/4 horses. If half of that has to go to the third son, then the third son won't even get a full horse. How to execute this sharing? They visited various places and approached many persons to help them do the sharing. But all their efforts proved futile. At last, they approached a wise minister of the kingdom for help. He promised, "I will come to your house and share the horses as per the will of your father." He went to the house in his horse. With the existing 7 horses, the minister added his own horse too. Now it became 8 horses altogether. Out of the 8 horses, he asked the first son to take 4 horses as his share as half of the total horses. The second son should be given 50% of what was given to the first son. So the minister asked the second son to take 2 horses as his share. Second son also took 2 horses. Third son should be given 50% of what was given to the second son. So the third son was given 1 horse as his share. The first son got 4 horses. Second son got 2 horses. Third son got 1 horse. Having distributed the 7 horses this way to the 3 sons, the minister left for the palace in his horse. After this, he also helped the 3 sons in distributing other properties equally amongst them. The purpose of adding the 8th horse was only to divide the existing 7 horses. 8th horse appeared from somewhere and went off as it came. The 8th horse participated in the apportionment for the sake of participation and went off not getting trapped in the apportionment. Atma is also like that. The 8th horse is this Atma Sakshatkar, direct awareness of the self. Sadhana Chatushtaya are taught to attain Atma Sakshatkar. Due to this, Viveka, intelligence, and Vairagya, detachment from the worldly pleasures, gain importance. We are encouraged to believe that through Viveka and Vairagya, we can escape from the Anatma and set our foot in the Atma Sakshatkar by knowing that I am the Atma. We take up Viveka and Vairagya for the sake of Atma Sakshatkar. If there is no need to attain Atma Sakshatkar, then there will not be any need for Viveka and Vairagya too. 8th horse appeared for namesake and went off. The problem is not with what is to be done for the 8th horse, but how to share and distribute the other horses. Only the 7 horses is the problem. Atma Sakshatkar is like the eighth horse, which just appeared for namesake and went off. Because nothing exists in the name of Atma Sakshatkar. Then why do we strive hard to attain something in the name of Atma Sakshatkar which doesn't exist? Is there nothing that we should know? Is there nothing that we should attain? Do we not have anything to understand? Do we not have anything to practice and achieve? There may not be an obligation to attain Atma Sakshatkar. That does not mean that nothing exists there for us to attain. When there is no necessity to attain something in the name of Atma Sakshatkar, then what should we gain by attaining something? Even if there is something that is to be attained, will it not be an unnecessary one? When Atma Sakshatkar itself became unnecessary and non-existent, what do we gain by Sadhana Chatushtaya? Actually, solution is needed only for the 7 horses. 8th horse does not need any solution. 8th horse came into picture to solve the apportionment issue of the 7 horses. The 7 horses did not come to resolve issue with the 8th horse. Sadhana Chatushtaya are nothing but the 7 horses. 8th horse is the Atma Sakshatkar. Sadhana Chatushtaya are used for the purpose of attaining Atma Sakshatkar. In fact, this aspect called Atma Sakshatkar itself is used only to assist Sadhana Chatushtaya. Therefore, what we need to attain is not Atma Sakshatkar. We need to attain only Sadhana Chatushtaya, 4 kinds of disciplines. What is this meaningless blabbering then? When there is nothing to attain, what is the necessity to have Sadhana Chatushtaya? Suppose we travel to a nearby city or a foreign country. Only if we have a destination to reach, then there we take up the journey in a vehicle. Suppose we do not have a destination to go, but we have boarded the bus. Then the conductor will ask us, which place do you need the bus tickets for? If we tell him that we do not need ticket for any place, then he would ask us to get down from the bus. When we don't have anything to attain, then why do we need Sadhana Chatushtaya? Endeavor in the name of sadhana, practice, is prescribed only to achieve the destination. When the destination called Atma Sakshatkar doesn't exist, why do we have the Sadhana Chatushtaya? If someone says, you can't attain anything by Sadhana Chatushtaya, it is your duty to practice. So, keep practicing Sadhana Chatushtaya. Then what will we do? What will we do if someone says, you will not be able to reach any destination, but you need to travel continuously in the bus? What is the necessity of adhering to Sadhana Chatushtaya when we are aware of the fact that we cannot gain anything called Atma Sakshatkar through practicing Sadhana Chatushtaya? Okay, let us assume that Atma Sakshatkar exists. Let us also assume that we have attained the Atma Sakshatkar. What do we gain by having attained Atma Sakshatkar? Let us assume that there is a reason for boarding the bus. Also assume that we have boarded the bus to reach a particular destination. What do we gain by reaching the destination? Why does everyone say that we should attain Atma Sakshatkar? What do we gain by attaining Atma Sakshatkar? It is said that we can attain mukti, liberation, and freedom from samsara bandha, bondage of worldly life, by realizing that we are the Atma. Therefore, what we need to attain indeed is mukti, liberation, and not Atma Sakshatkar. We want to attain Atma Sakshatkar for a reason that it would liberate us from samsara bandha, the bondage of worldly life. A story is told with fun. A devotee wished to get the darshan of Lord Ganesha. His guru initiated him into mantra diksha, mantra chanting. His guru said, if you chant this mantra for 1 lakh times, Lord Ganesha would bless you with his presence and offer the boons that you ask. He also taught him the procedure. The devotee earnestly started chanting the mantra. When he completed 50,000 chants, Lord Ganesha appeared before him and asked this devotee, "Bhakta, tell me your wishes." The devotee humbly put forward an appeal. "O Lord, kindly pardon me. I have only completed 50,000 chants. I request you with love and respect to calmly wait until I complete the remaining 50,000 chants also." Atma Sakshatkar is only a means to attain mukti, liberation. It is not the destination. Mantra chanting is only for the darshan, presence of Lord Ganesha. But what is the need of chanting as Lord Ganesha has already given the darshan to the devotee? We step out of our house to meet a friend who resides in the next street. But when we open our door, we find our friend standing there at our doorstep. How will it appear if we tell that friend, "I have stepped out of my house to meet you at your house. So, you kindly wait here for me until I return after going to your house to confirm that you are not there." What do we try to conclude here? Without attaining Atma Sakshatkar, we can derive the benefit of Atma Sakshatkar, that is, mukti, liberation. Are we intending to say like this? Now, our attention has turned towards liberation. There is no difference of opinion between us and the Shastras, scriptures, regarding the fact that the final destination that we need to attain is liberation. It is our idea that the highest state to be attained is liberation. This is the idea of the Shastras too. Now, the next question starts hereafter. Who requires mukti? Who should attain mukti? Where should it happen? Does Atma need mukti or does Brahman need mukti? Liberation is necessary for those who are caught up in samsara, bondage of worldly life. When we are neither in bondage nor in samsara, we do not require liberation. Here, who is caught up in the samsara bandha? Is it the Atma that is caught up in the samsara bandha? If it is so, then for sure Atma is in need of mukti. But Atma is neither in bondage nor in samsara. There is no need for Atma to get rid of samsara bandha. So, Atma is not in need of liberation. Only those who are in prison need freedom. Others who are outside the prison do not need freedom. Then, who is locked in prison? Who is in bondage? Who is in samsara? Who is in need of mukti, liberation? Atma is neither in samsara nor in bondage. Jiva, individual personality, is in samsara bandha. Jiva, as individual personality, needs to be liberated. We, the Jiva, need to attain mukti. Who is this Jiva? Who are we? That is the Jiva. Who am I? That is the Jiva. Jiva is a combination of both Atma and Anatma. Our individual personality is a combination of both conscious and non-conscious factors. Can we say that all those problems like the bondage and samsara that the Jiva faced have been faced by the Atma also? We cannot say that Atma faces these problems. Atma is the Chaitanya, pure awareness. Can we consider that the Anatma faces all these problems? We can't consider like that too, because except Atma, everything else is just Jatam, lifeless objects. Does the Jatam, lifeless matter, have any problem? No, lifeless matter, object, will not have any problems. If there is neither any problem to the Atma nor to the Anatma, then who has the problem? If the problem is for Jiva, individual personality, who is this Jiva? Is this Jiva an Atma or Anatma? If Jiva is an Atma, there can't be any problems to it. Even if Jiva is an Anatma, there cannot be any problem to the Jiva. If so, Who is Jiva? If it is neither an Atma nor Anatma, then who is this Jiva? The shadow of the tree falls beneath the tree. The shadow is in the shape of the tree. Which one is the reason behind the shadow? Is this the tree the reason behind the shadow or the sun? Without tree, there is no shadow of the tree. Without sun also, there is no shadow of the tree. The shadow is the aspect that is caused by the combination of the tree and the sun. Does the tree try to create the shadow? No. Does the sun try to create the shadow? No. The shadow is in the place where there are no rays of sun. The shadow exists as an image of the tree when there is a combination of the sun and the tree. Similarly, the Jiva is created as an aspect of Anatma inside the sanctum sanctorum of the Atma in the presence of Atma. Jiva reveals itself in the form of psychological experiences, Manovritti or Chittavritti. Jiva reveals itself through the experiences of the body and the mind. All these experiences exist in the name of Jiva. The Atma or the Anatma may be the source of our experiences, but they are not the direct reasons for these experiences. The Jiva that exists as our experiences considers itself as the Jiva. It assumes itself to be in bondage and samsara. Even though Atma is not directly attributable to our experiences, in some way or the other, Atma is a reason too. So, the Sat, quality of existence, and the Chit, quality of knowing aspects of the Atma are revealed through each and every experience of ours. But the third aspect of Atma, which is Ananta, is boundless and infinite. As the aspect of Ananta also takes part indirectly in our experiences, these experiences are within certain boundaries, within a frame of measure. They exist as transient experiences that occur afresh every moment. When we speak of experiences, they are something that appear and disappear. There is nothing like an immobile experience, an unchanging experience, or an everlasting experience. Experience is like tides of the sea. Whatever happens to us like multiple waves are called as experiences. Something like a tide that emerges and expresses itself is the Jiva, individual self. It is neither Sat, existence, nor Asat, non-existent. It exists as a combination of Sat and Asat, that is Sat-Asat, combination of existence and non-existence. It is this Jiva that considers itself to have been bounded and being in samsara. It tries to free itself. It is this Jiva that learns the Shastras and practices the Sadhana Chatushtaya. It is this Jiva that practices Viveka and Vairagya, intelligence and detachment from the worldly pleasures. Are Viveka and Vairagya required for Atma? Are the Sadhana Chatushtaya required for Atma? No, nothing is required for Atma. Only the Jiva needs all these. We the Jiva are practicing Viveka and Vairagya as sadhanas, spiritual disciplines. In fact, Viveka and Vairagya are not really the spiritual disciplines to reach a destination. They are in fact the destination itself that we need to attain. They are really the goals that we need to achieve. Enlightenment and Viveka are not two different things. Mukti and Vairagya are also not different. It is Jnana, enlightenment, that is described in the name of Viveka. It is Mukti, liberation, that is described in the name of Vairagya. The goal of the Jiva is Vairagya only. Viveka is the path to attain Vairagya. The goal of individual self is detachment from worldly pleasures. Intelligence is the way to attain it. There is no association between Sadhana Chatushtaya and Atma. These are related only to the Jiva. What is Viveka? What kind of Viveka should happen to us? Viveka is said to be the wisdom that enables us to know and distinguish between Nitya, eternal, and Anitya, transient. We call that as Viveka, which denotes the freedom from the illusory thing, that is, a wrong understanding of some non-existing things that appear to be existing. We misunderstand the rope to be a snake. Snake is something that does not exist, but the rope really exists. If we get the experience of a snake by looking at the rope, it means that we have understood wrongly. When we correctly understand that it is a rope, the experience associated with the snake, that is, the fear, disappears from us. Wrongly understanding the rope as a snake is similar to understanding ourselves as Jiva. It is similar to perceiving ourselves as Anatma. We need to recognize a rope as a rope without wrongly understanding it as a snake. Recognizing a rope as a rope is similar to understanding ourselves as Atma. Only Sat has the existence aspect. If at all anything exists, we have to understand that it is Sat. Rope is the Sat aspect. It will not perish. It has the existence aspect. Snake does not exist. It has an appearance based on the existence of the rope. If it is seen in the light, the appearance of snake disappears. We, the Jiva, exist with the perception that we exist. Our Sat aspect is this quality of being, isness. This is the aspect of our Atma. As we perceive ourselves with various names and qualifications, we attain the nature of a separate individual. Our being, existence, the feeling that we exist becomes the source for us. I coexist with body. I have mind. I am a doctor. I am a teacher. I am a father. I become happy. I become sad. Like this, I, our existential awareness, isness, attach some qualifications to this existential aspect. Like attaching an image of a snake to the rope, we attach all these aspects and many more different types of these aspects to our existential awareness, isness. The rope does not fight with us because we perceive the rope as a snake. The rope does not fight with us questioning how we have understood it as snake. But we only get frightened because of this. Just because we attach some merits and qualities to our Atma, the Sat aspect, existence, does not start fighting with us saying, how can you consider me as someone having experiences and qualities? But as we fail to understand that the experiences and the qualifications that happen to us are just an illusion, we get stuck in the swirl of self-contradiction, struggle and suffering. This is said to be the bondage. This is said to be the samsara. There arises a necessity to unwind from these bondage and samsara. This is what is said to be mukti, liberation. Who is getting frightened when rope is perceived as a snake? Is it the rope? Rope never considers itself as snake. Rope is always a rope. So, rope does not get frightened by considering itself as a snake. Hence, there is no necessity for the rope to get rid of the fear. There is no necessity for the Atma to unwind from the delusion of samsara and bondage. Atma doesn't have any necessity to attain mukti. In this scenario, who has got fear? Who has got an issue? If the issue is not with the rope, then is it with the snake? Even the snake does not have an issue because there is nothing called snake. Then who has got an issue? Someone has misunderstood the rope as a snake and was afraid of the rope. Who is that person in fear? Is he the rope? Is he the snake or someone else? Are there three aspects in this scenario? Rope, snake and the observer. Are there three aspects in this scenario? In fact, there can be only two possible aspects here. Rope may be there. The person who sees the rope may also be there. Only rope and the observer are real. It is the fault of the observer who, instead of seeing the rope as a rope, sees it as a snake. As he is seeing wrongly, he has got an issue of fear. Then there arises the necessity to get rid of the issue. Here, the rope indicates the Atma. He who sees the rope as a snake indicates us the Jiva, individual self. How to see the rope as a rope? How to see the Atma as Atma? Is Atma the real nature of Jiva? How do we see Atma Swarupa, our natural state? We should see the rope as rope, not as snake. This example is very simple. This example has become very much refined through the continuous explanation of this great truth by the scriptural experts. But how to see the rope as a rope? Is Atma an object to be seen? In case it is an object to be seen, it has to be in the control of viewer. We see the rope. Can we see the Atma? Rope is within our visibility. It is within the boundary of our knowledge. Is Atma within our visibility? Is it within the boundary of our perception? Is attaining Atma Sakshatkar by knowing that I am Atma all about knowing Atma? Is this called Viveka? We touch the fire with our finger. What will happen? Heat attacks the finger. We sense the heat of fire through our finger. Now we immerse our finger in cold water. Finger senses the chillness. What do we sense with our finger? Is it the fire or is it the cold water? Even after taking out our finger from the fire, the impact of the fire is staying with the finger for some time. Even after taking out our finger from the cold water, the impact of the chillness is staying with the finger for some time. If we say that our finger has been sensing the fire, we should feel the heat only when the finger is in touch with the fire. If we say that our finger has been feeling the chillness, we should be conscious of the chillness only when the finger is in contact with the cold water. If that feeling continues even after taking out the finger, are we conscious of the fire or the finger? Are we sensing the water or the finger? In fact, we can only be conscious of the finger, not the fire or the water. The fire may be the reason for the sensation in the finger. Water may be a reason, but we feel only the sensation in our finger. We cannot perceive fire or water. But we do not say that I sense my finger when I touch the fire. We only say that we sense the fire. We do not say that we sense the finger when we touch the cold water. We only say that we sense the cold water. Are we sensing the finger or are we sensing fire or water in reality? We proclaim that we sense the fire, but we sense only the finger. We proclaim that we sense the cold water, but we sense only the finger. We have only felt the sensation of the finger. If so, are we conscious of the finger or the characteristic of the finger? We can feel only the sensation of the finger. We can only be conscious of the change that is happening in the finger. Hence, what we are conscious of is the finger only. Consciousness of finger only. What is a finger? Each has its own characteristic. Fire has heat. Lamp has light. Water has chillness. Like these characteristics, should there not be a characteristic for the finger too? What is that characteristic of the finger? Heat or chillness? If we say that we have not sensed either the fire or water, but only the finger, then how do we sense the finger? What is the natural characteristic of the finger? What is its natural characteristic? Just because it indicates heat, can we say that its characteristic is heat? Just because it indicates chillness, can we say that its characteristic is chillness? In reality, our finger exists with certain awareness. Only that awareness expresses itself as a bodily consciousness of heat or cold. We understand that awareness, chit factor, only through its conscious expression. That awareness does not otherwise express itself separately. Our quality of being, thisness, is also like this. It does not express its existential awareness individually. Atma is pure awareness. When Atma expresses itself as the emotions of mind and sensations of body, it appears to be the Jiva. Now, what is our problem? We have to sense a rope as a rope, but not as a snake. Perceiving a rope as rope is about perceiving ourselves as the Atma. What does it mean by perceiving ourselves as Atma? What we call as perceiving our Atma is nothing but the perception that our natural state is the aspect of Sat, Chit, existential awareness. Can we perceive this way? If we can perceive this way, then who is the perceiver? Is it the Chit, the existential awareness that perceives itself by trying to know itself? Or is it Jiva, the expressed experience, which acts based on the source of Chit, existential awareness, that knows its source? Should Jiva know that its natural form is Atma Swarupa? Jiva is only an expression. Is it this expression that needs to understand about its source? The Jiva, or considering ourselves as the Jiva, is only an experience of the mind. Should it be this mental experience that needs to perceive its source, Chit aspect, as a part of it? Does our quality of being, thisness, come within the boundary of the experience of our mind? All experiences are possible through the Atma, but Atma is not an experience. All the experiences are effects. They are not the cause. Now, what do we need to know? Should we know Atma? Though Shastra's scriptures repeatedly say that we should know Atma, the same scriptures also say that we cannot know or feel Atma. All Shastras proclaim in unison that Brahman, absolute reality, is the only unpolluted aspect. If there is an existence of an object or an experience, it is not possible to exist without the Atma. All our experiences are possible only because of the Atma. Experience of heat or cold is not possible if there is no finger. The feelings of heat and chillness are nothing but the experiences of the finger. It is the Atma that is expressed as the Jiva. Heat alone is not the sensation of the finger. Chillness alone is not the sensation of the finger. Though Atma expresses itself as the Jiva, Jiva alone is not the Atma, but Jiva is also Atma. The commentaries of Vedic Shastras consider two types of stances. We should get rid of the experience called the snake. We should understand the rope as a rope. We should understand the truth called the Atma. We should come out of the delusion called the Jiva. Snake should not be visible to our eyes. Only the rope should be seen. Sight of the Atma should befall like that of the rope. Vision of the Atma should befall like that of the rope. Do the Shastras claim like this? Or do they claim that only the sight of the snake befalls? That too should be considered as the sight of a rope. It claims both ways. Like the first version, Shastras mostly proclaim that the rope should be understood. Atma Sakshatkar, direct awareness of the self, should be attained. All those who learn Shastras also start putting in unrelenting effort with a yearning to have the direct awareness of the Atma. But Shastras make their desires desperate. Shastras abandon them by stating, as long as there exists a recognizable object, Atma considers itself as the one who knows or as a witness. When there is no recognizable object, Atma cannot be considered as the one who knows or as the witness. The Shastras that kept on nurturing the desire of knowing the Atma become hesitant to say that the Atma cannot be known at all. So, the learners of Shastras become perplexed. All our experiences are temporary, illusionary, misunderstood, non-existent. In truth, only Atma exists as the source of all these experiences. It is the Sat existence. It is the Chit basic awareness. Like this, Shastras struggle to prove Atma with many such analogies, provide explanations over explanations. But the same Shastras that struggle to such an extent run away and hide without any concern after having proclaimed the truth. Atma cannot be known, as if it is an unimportant one. Shastras confuse the scholars by not proclaiming tellingly that Atma cannot be known. All scholars think Atma can be witnessed. Atma has its own being. We can know it. Shastras too have been proclaiming this way to give life to this idea. Ramana Maharishi has said that there is nothing called Atma Sakshatkar, direct awareness of the self. What is surprising in this is the comment of the scriptural experts. We do not accept Ramana Maharishi. They would say this with a casual smile. Ramana Maharishi also has been proclaiming that we should attain Atma Sakshatkar based on Shastras. When he was questioned on how to attain Atma Sakshatkar and if it can be attained as Pratyaksha Bhava, directly through sense organs, he said there is nothing called Atma Sakshatkar or Atma Darshan. We say that the destruction of the ignorance is Atma Sakshatkar. Let us park Ramana Maharishi aside. What do then Shastras say at all about the Atma? It says that Atma exists as Sat, Chit and Ananda. Sat is existing reality. Chit is awareness. Ananda is completeness or wholeness. Shastras say that out of these three, only Chit exists as a quality. The same Chit quality only exists as Sat as well as Ananda, wholeness. Therefore, the Atma represents only the Chit aspect. What is this Chit awareness? How do the Shastras explain about it? Shastras say that this Chit aspect is the basis for everything. But how do we understand this Chit aspect? Is it possible to understand it? Who does have the necessity to understand it? Because of this, the Upanishads kept quiet, having said, know the Atma through Atma. What is need for the Atma to know the Atma itself? There is a need for knowing the Atma only to something that considers itself as the Jiva. How can that something, Jiva, know and realize the Atma? Through what means will it feel Atma? Does it have any tools or methods to know Atma? There is nothing that has the qualification of feeling and knowing the Atma as Atma. It is not possible to feel Atma by making it an experience. Does it mean that all the approaches of the Shastras are incorrect? Chapter 3. Sat Chit Ananta. Sat Chit Ananta, all these three are combined together called as Sat Chit Ananda. Sat is existence or reality. Chit is awareness and Ananta is infinite or total. The natural form of Sat Chit Ananta is nothing but the natural form of Atma or Brahman, absolute truth. Sat means existence. In the analogy of snake and rope, rope alone exists. This is called as Sat. Snake is non-existing one, but it looks as if it exists. Snake is not Sat. Rope is considered as Sat. Rope exists, but snake does not exist. Thus, which has existence is Sat. Sat aspect is Atma's, Brahman's natural state. Atma's natural quality, Atma's natural state. The Atma is having the Sat quality. Is the Atma a Jatam, lifeless matter, or is it a conscious object? Jatam, lifeless matter, is the one which does not have self-consciousness. We don't call a man or an animal as a matter. Man knows his existence. Animal too knows its existence. This is being with self-consciousness. The book which we are reading, is it with self-consciousness? The chair which we are sitting, is it with self-consciousness? All these are not with self-consciousness, and we call these as Jatam, matter. Atma is not a Jatam, matter. It exists with self-consciousness, Chaitanya, life. Self-consciousness is a natural state of Atma, its natural form. Sat is existence. Chit is awareness, knowing nature. Atma, Brahman, is both Sat and Chit. We know what is Sat and we also know what is Chit. Sat is existence. Now, let us come back to the rope-snake analogy. Rope is the existing one. We are citing this as an example for Atma. Rope is visible to us. Does Atma exist like this? If it is existing, then how does it exist? Existence of the rope can be seen by you and me. So, we are clear about its existence. Does Atma exist like this? If Atma exists, then what is the nature of its existence? We see fire. Nature of fire is heat. Fire has existence. It expresses heat. Fire is the source. Its expression is heat. Like this, Atma, which exists with the quality of existence, does it express its quality of perception, awareness, or is this awareness existence? Does Sat exist as source, or is the Chit basis? The next attribute of Atma is Ananda, bliss. Ananda is expression of joy. Is Atma expressing joy every moment? Is it creating experience of bliss always? Is Atma's Ananda bliss an experience? Who is experiencing that blissful experience? Atma's third quality of Ananda is also referred as Ananta, infinite, endless. Ananta means endless, infinite, without any limitation. Only if we limit any object, then alone we can understand and experience it as an object. We cannot limit and perceive Atma, so it is called Ananta, infinite, endless. When we say Ananda, bliss, then it becomes an experience with its limitation, finiteness. But the meaning of Ananta, infinite, suits perfectly with Atma's quality. When we say Atma is an indescribable infinity, then it becomes Ananta. Now, if we try to fit Atma's this aspect of Ananta, infinite, with Sat and Chit, then what will happen? Atma's Sat quality is there, but it is infinite and endless. Atma's Chit quality is there, but we cannot describe by limiting it. If we are able to describe, then all become limited and finite. It will lose the status of Ananta, infinite, endless. Then how do we know Atma? Can't we know Atma? How did they know that one such thing like Atma is existing? Let us again come to the rope-snake example. One thinks and sees rope as snake, but rope does not think itself as snake. Rope is there. The person who sees the rope is also there. Only these two are true. Snake is only a projection and experience. This experience does not happen to the rope. This experience happens only to a person who sees the rope. If we see the rope as a rope, then snake disappears. The fear of snake also disappears. The problem is not either in rope or with snake. The problem exists only with the person who sees the rope as a snake. We described this person as Jiva, individual self. From the analogy of snake rope, we need to understand who is this Jiva. We understand ourselves as Jiva. Indeed, who are we? What is our natural state? Only this needs to be understood. In reality, our natural state is that of Atma, Atma Swarupa. The concept of individual self is in our imagination only. We misunderstand that we are Jiva. Our natural state is rope, not that of a snake. When we perceive and understand ourselves as rope, we are free from the experience of snake. When we understand that we are Atma, then we are liberated from the experience of Jiva and Samsara. As we see a rope as a rope, how can we see Atma as Atma? Can we see like that? Or when we come to know that there is nothing like a snake exists, can we assume that we have seen the rope which forms the basis for snake? Through the understanding that there is no Jiva, should we understand that our natural state is Atma? Should we understand that we are only the rope? Or should we understand that we are not the snake? Should we understand that we are Atma? Or should we understand that we are not the Jiva? For our eyes, only snake is visible. Rope is not visible. Only Jiva is visible to us, not the Atma. The rope is seen as a snake in an adequate light. In proper light, snake disappears and the rope is seen. Jiva, individual self, appears because of ignorance. In the annotation of wisdom, Jiva disappears. The Atma, which is the source of the Jiva, is perceived. Is it like this? What is ignorance? What is clear wisdom? We call wisdom as Chit aspect. What is Chit? What is wisdom or intellect? Is intellect all about properly understanding man as a man, tree as a tree, and an animal as an animal? Is it Chit? Is ignorance all about wrongly understanding a tree as a man, or a man as a tree, and a rope as a snake? We all have intellect. We do all our work using only intellect. If our intellect is not working, then it is not possible to understand what is said in this book. Not only that, we may not be able to lead a normal life if the intellect is not working. Intellect is needed even to know what is our intellect. What is that intellect that is known very well to us? How does our intellect exist? How does it act? We are walking on the road. Vehicles are surging in front of us. Only when we understand that they are vehicles do we give way to them and go aside. What will happen if we do not understand that they are vehicles? We will not be able to give way to them. The drivers of the vehicle will go yelling at us, "Do you have sense?" It may also happen that some vehicles may hit us. Something that happens that we see and understand is termed as intellect by us. If we do not understand, we say it is ignorance. Is intellect all about understanding this way? Is this the Chit aspect? We buy a new book. The rear side wrapper of the book has some notes in very small letters. As the letters are very small, we are unable to read. We bring a magnifying glass and see. Now the letters are visible clearly. What has happened here? There is no flaw in our eyes. Our vision is as normal as that of others. We use lens to see something that is not visible to the normal eyes. What is the knowing factor in this? Is just seeing the letters clearly called knowing, or is it the ability to know that is called knowing? In reality, the ability of the eyes to see represents the knowing. When the ability is to see is passed through the lens, the letters are boldly visible. The magnifying glass does not modify our ability to see. It only magnifies the object and shows to us. It does not modify the knowing. It only magnifies the object and shows to us. It does not modify the knowing. It only magnifies the object that is to be known. Here, the knowing ability is not modified. The objects that are to be known are modifiable. With this knowing ability, we can know the letters, the objects, and the people. We can know by changing it again and again in many new ways. But there is no change in the knowing ability. That is natural, cannot be changed. Knowing is Chit. Knowing does not denote the object that is known. It only denotes the knowing. It denotes only the Chit factor, knowing. This knowing ability has the power to sense. It has vitality, life. This is the first level feature. Everything else that is seen and known is of the second level feature. Be it a tree that is seen or a human that is seen, both are of second level aspect only. Seeing alone is life feature, Chaitanya, the spirit. The thing that is seen is lifeless, material feature, Jatam, the matter. Nothing can be known in the absence of the ability to know, the knowing, Chit. The ability to know is the same, but the objects that are known keep changing. An example, a pleasant night time. We have a torchlight in our hand. We flash the torchlight on a person. Only that person is seen in the torchlight. Rest of the things are all dark. Now, we divert the flashlight to a tree. Now, the person has disappeared. Only the tree is seen in the light. In the darkness, we see each object by flashing the torchlight on them like this. Each object is distinctly seen. Now, without diverting the torchlight on anything, we divert the light to the open air towards the sky. Now, the light does not strike on anything. What do we see now? Nothing can be seen. Even the presence of light can be known only if any dust particles or smoke interrupts the light. Otherwise, the presence of light itself will not be known. Only in the event of a seen object being sighted can the light too be sighted. This is the knowing feature of ourselves. It does not show its existence on itself. Its exposure is only in the method of knowing the object that is being seen. The Chit quality is nothing but the existence of this knowing. Chit aspect alone is the knowing. What does our Chit aspect know? Even our Chit aspect knows through lens only, knows through a magnifying glass. The magnifying glass is not anything else, it is our sensory organs. Our Chit aspect alone knows the 5 different perceptions through the 5 different senses. We see, hear, taste, smell and feel. Knowing is one aspect, understanding is another aspect, but both work together. Chit aspect alone is the true knowing. That alone is the first level. Chit aspect that is seen through sensory experience is the second level. Understanding of those sensory perceptions through our idea is the third level. We see someone through our senses. That sensory perception is the second level. Through our perception, we understand that the image that is shown by our eyes is our friend. This is the third level experience. Understanding that he is our friend, we get some kind of happy experience in our mind. This is the fourth level experience. The first level that is the source of all these layers is the Chit aspect, awareness, inner quality. Other 3 qualities are related to the outer physical world, related to the external objects. But what we call as intellect or knowledge in our practical life is something different. We call the understanding of something rationally based on our experiences and perceptions as intellect. We do not consider the cognitive knowing of what we see and what we hear as intellect or wisdom. we consider all this as sheer sensory perception. We do not consider it as wisdom or intellect. Wisdom is the understanding of what we see, hear and feel, etc. that are converted into different forms of ideas based on our perceptions and discrimination as human, animal, tree, my friend, desirable or undesirable person, etc. If we fail to understand like that, it means that our intellect has not worked well. The rope snake example is also like this only. Rope should not be wrongly understood as snake. Rope should be perceived only as rope rightly. It is said like this there. Rational understanding means an understanding in the right manner, ideally with clarity of ideas without any doubt. But all these are the third level experiences. Our Vedic researches and the effort to understand that are in this third layer only. Only the Chit aspect, that is, knowing, exists as the first level, the first layer. The second and third layers might have existed keeping the first layer as the source. Knowing the first layer through these is not possible. The letters can be known by the lens, but the sensitivity to see cannot be known by that. All our senses are designed in such a way that they indicate only the external phenomena. Through the eyes that are designed for viewing, only the views can be seen. Sound cannot be heard by them. Similarly, the ears that are designed for hearing can only hear the sound. No views can be seen by them. The senses have not been designed to know the Chit aspect by converting them into a sensory experience. Chit is the source of all senses. We can only know those things that are shown by our senses. How do we identify and understand a human as a human and a tree as a tree? How is it understood that a friend as a friend? If at all we know something, that is nothing but the view shown to us by our senses. We cannot know anything that is not shown by the senses. No one can know. All our senses exist like mirrors that show the views, experiences that come in front of us by reflecting them. The senses do not keep anything on hold. All the experiential sights that were seen by our senses are recorded into our mind as memories. All the mental recordings are nothing but the consumptive experiences of the senses. But all those recorded experiences are a thing of past. With the help of these mental recordings, we understand our sensory perceptions, the views that are shown by the senses. Through this only, we understand human as human, animal as animal, friend as friend. Understanding the events through the mental recordings keep happening in the third layer. Here, the information gathered by us exists there and keep acting as our knowledge. All the reflections caused in the senses appear and disappear momentarily. No past experiences are stored and kept in our senses. Our mind only acts as a storage godown. It acts based on the information gathered. It thinks and understands. With the help of what is known, it also assumes what is not known by it. It borrows the mental recordings of others. Our mind that acts from the third layer alone tries to know the Atma, tries to understand the Chit aspect. It assumes the Chit aspect from the information it has gathered. Our Chit aspect does not try to do this. Even the senses that act from the second level do not involve in this effort. The third layer is a storage of past experiences, a mansion constructed by burnt ashes. In this third layer, only imaginations and dreams are possible. Current experiences are possible only in the senses, possible only in the second layer. Our senses do not try to reflect upon its source. This second layer does not try to know the Chit aspect in the first layer, that is its source. It only reflects what it comes across. Only this third layer, mind, is little different. In our practical life, only this third layer assumes significance. We consider the activities of this third layer as our superior wisdom. In a way, that is also right. As far as the first two layers are concerned, there is no discrepancy between human and animals. There is no discrepancy even in the chit aspect in the first layer, nor is any difference in the second layer, which is the sense feature. Discrepancy occurs between human and animal based on the third layer that acts on the basis of the stored experiences. Only this third layer of the human acts in a different manner to the extent of considering it as rational, reasoning mind. Through the experiential memories that we have stored, we have nurtured a performance capability that enables us to think and act ourselves. An animal or a bird does not act on thoughts. It lives and disappears the way it was created. We are not like that. We plan our life and establish based on the plan. That is why we call our life as a meaningful life, rational life. Only the aspect of memory gives explanation by distinguishing each and everything. It makes us to understand. Only with the help of our thoughts, memories, we understand by distinguishing between us and the vehicles that come across us. If we are unable to understand that way, unable to distinguish and know, we will not be able to give way to the vehicle that comes across us. Only by understanding this way through discrimination, we are able to carry out our activities well. What is understanding by discrimination? We identify everything with the information stored. We set boundaries to everything by distinguishing them separately. It is only through the stored information and our ideas that we distinguish and understand everything. We think that we have known fire by touching the fire. In reality, we do not perceive the fire. We only perceive the reaction caused in our hands by the fire. We think that we see the fire. In reality, fire is not something that is contained in our vision. The sight of fire reflects in our eyes. We only know the reflection, not the reality of the fire. We see only the reflections reflecting in our senses. We assume the reason behind such reflection ourselves. Only the reflections that occur in our senses and the reactions exist as our experiences. All our experiences are within certain limits. They are restricted by our senses. The sensory experiences that are limited are again restricted more by our ideas. We appreciate this knowledge by restriction, limitation as discrimination. What we call knowledge in practical life is knowing through restrictions. What we call as chit is not this discrimination, not knowing through restrictions. We call the source, which is the ability to know, as chit, awareness. That remains as ananta, infinite, without getting restricted. This chit ability to know exists naturally as Atma Swarupa, the natural state of Atma. In our practical life, we do not consider this chit, true knowing ability, to mean wisdom. We cannot know anything with the help of our wisdom or intellect. But we are in an illusion that we are knowing everything. If there is a tree in front of us, we do not know the tree. No one else will be able to know the tree other than the tree itself. No one will know how the tree is. Even then, we know the tree. How do we know? We know only the reflection created in our retina by the tree. All those reflections are just the shadows. But what we know in the name of a tree is just the reflective shadow of the tree. Even that reflective shadow is not perceived as it is. We paint the reflective shadows with the burnt remains of the past experiences. We identify the tree as a banyan tree or a peepal tree. A cricket player played very well. hit more than a century and came as a champion out of the ground. Everyone expressed happiness and appreciated him. One person alone asked the cricket player with a sad face, "Why did you disappoint me like this?" The cricket player could not understand anything. He asked that person, "Did I not play well? How did I disappoint you?" That person gave an explanation. "Usually you do not play like this. Hence, I had a bet with my friend saying that you would not score 100 runs. But you played well and disappointed me. I have lost 10,000 rupees because of you." The cricket player did not really know that person. Can he be responsible if that person has had a betting on him? Similarly, the tree in front of us does not know who we are. The tree does not know that it has reflected in our eyes and that we have given a name, banyan tree, to that reflective image. We do not know anything else about the tree directly except the reflection caused in us by the tree. Whatever we see are just the reflective images that occur in our senses and the images we attach to them through our memories. We understand only these mixed experiences of pleasure and pain that occur in us as a result of the reflective images. What that works within us is the chit aspect, the first level. But it is not an experience itself. It is the source of all kinds of experiences. All the experiences that occur in our senses because of this source are the second level. Whatever in the world that we know can be known only by converting them into sensory perceptions, converting them into the second level. We get sensory feelings through the outer objects outside us reflecting in our senses. Fire reflects in our sense of touch. It also reflects in our eyes. We perceive the heat of the fire through our sense of touch. We perceive its image through the reflections that are caused in our eyes. Likewise, we perceive water, each and every object. Each and everything exists as a reason behind its expression by creating reflections in our senses in a unique manner. Fire exhibits heat, exhibits light. Water exhibits chillness. It also shows its image and taste. Will the chit aspect also exhibit its uniqueness in our second level senses, like the outer objects exhibiting their own uniqueness in our second level senses? Will the chit aspect exhibit itself as a unique sensory perception? Like the way we understand, the sensory feeling was caused by fire. That sensory feeling was caused by water. Or, like saying that this was a sensory feeling caused by the chit aspect, is there any unique sensory perception exist? Because whatever we know are all that our senses exhibit on us. The mixed experiences of pleasure and pain that we come across are also the sensory experiences that occur in our nervous systems. We do not know anything other than the sensory experiences. Will the first level chit aspect exhibit any unique sensory feeling for itself? When we see a tree, we actually do not see the tree. We perceive only the reflective side it creates in our senses. We will not be able to perceive directly a tree or fire or anything else. We don't even know how they exist in their state. All that we know is their reflection, the reflection caused in our senses. Like this, we may not know the chit aspect directly. We may not even know how it would be. But would it create a unique exposure for itself in our senses? All the exposures that emerge as sensory feelings are the exposures of chit aspect only. There is no separate exposure for chit aspect exclusively. The existential awareness that I exist is also a manifestation of the sensory perception created by our mental activities. There is no direct relationship between that and the Chit aspects. 5 different sensory consumptions, sensory perceptions like seeing, hearing, etc. occur in us. How do all these work? Do all the senses work together simultaneously, or do they work one after one? Will other senses not be working when one sense expresses a view or a feeling? Which ones do we perceive? Which ones do we not perceive? For example, we are listening to the music and enjoying it. The sense of hearing helps us in this. What do the other senses do when the sense of hearing is in action? Are they taking rest without reflecting anything? In reality, all our senses are wide open. The reflective traits associated with all our senses continue to exist in our senses. But primarily, we perceive only that feeling which we are attentive with our mind. The other sensory perceptions appear to have lost significance like the day moon. The synchronization of the mind like this is called involvement of the mind, concentration, paying attention, etc. This involvement of mind synchronizes itself where there is interest. In case of lack of interest, we have to try hard to synchronize this attention. All the meditative practices have been designed to be focusing this attention on something or the other. We may be concentrating on our breath. We may be concentrating on our thoughts or our body movements, or fix our attention on a point in our body, or even paying attention to the attentiveness itself. The activities of the attention exist like this in many different ways. What is this attention? Whatever we attempt to perceive, we may not be able to perceive anything without this attention. Is it this attention that acts as a source of everything? The Chit aspect of the Atma? Even this is just the expression of Chit aspect only, not the Chit aspect itself. This attention is also a part of our mental activity. We can maneuver this as we wish. What is this attention? What is its activity? Before knowing this, it will be quite useful to know a little information on our sleep. We know that 3 kinds of experiences such as consciousness, dream and sleep occur. Consciousness is the waking state. In the conscious state, we will know whatever happens. We know everything about what we are doing, what have we connected with, etc. Here, our attentiveness alone works in totality. Our attentiveness understands the activities of our senses and our mind very well. Only through this are we able to face our routine work on a day-to-day basis. Our dream state is a state of exposure through a combination of our attentiveness and our thoughts. As all the senses are under rest here, there are no reflections in the senses. Here, only our body is under rest. So, nothing related to our body comes to our attention. Only the mind is awake here. Our attention goes along with the thoughts that occur on their own. This is our dream state. In a dreamless sleep, the mind along with the body is under rest. When both the mind and the body are taking rest, it becomes impossible for the attentiveness also to reflect anything. It becomes impossible for exposing anything by combining with any other thing. Even then, there exists the awareness. It does not express anything. During sleep, we are in the form of this attentiveness, this awareness. As we become just this awareness, we who are in this state of being are called Pragyan by the Shastras. Prajna means the capacity of knowing. During sleep, we are in the form of this attentiveness, this awareness. As it does not expose anything, we are in a state of not knowing anything. Some describe this sleep as a comfortable experience. Our Shastras describe this sleep as a trait of our Anandamaya Kosha, sheath made of bliss. But during sleep, we do not get any experiences. During dreaming, we may get some experiences, but during dreamless sleep, we do not get any experience. Then, how can we say that sleep is comfortable, blissful? In the absence of any knowledge, how to perceive this comfort, how to perceive this bliss? Let us see an example. There is a wedding function going on in your house. Because of that, you have lost sleep for 3 days. There has been restless work for the past 3 days. You have not slept well during these 3 days. Especially, you have not at all slept in the last day. All programs come to an end in 3 days. There is no work on the 4th day for you. You are earmarking that day for your rest. You are sleeping and taking rest after breakfast. Because of the hectic work and the resulting exhaustion, as you have not slept well in the past 3 days, you go to deep sleep within 2 minutes of going to your bed. You have slept only for 1 hour. Someone is waking you up saying that there is another important work pending. That is also an important work. It is necessary for you to go out with regard to that work. But you are half asleep. You will get rid of your exhaustion only if you sleep for at least 2 or 3 hours. You are being pulled to sleep because you have just caressed the sleep and left it half over. At the same time, you are being summoned by the duty to work. Sleep pulls you inside and duty pulls you outside. If you carefully observe this state, you will understand the characteristic of sleep. The blissful, comfortable state of the sleep will be visible to you only when the sleep is dispersed but also not dispersed. You will be able to perceive that sleep has occupied you as a blissful and comfortable feeling. This kind of experience can only be felt during daytime sleep. Anandamaya Kosha, the sheath made of bliss, is nothing but this kind of awareness, a feeling of attentiveness. All meditative practices are aimed at activating this Anandamaya Kosha. We can activate our blissful feelings by diverting our attention on our attention itself. We can remain in the state of attentiveness with the feelings inactive. Bringing out the attentiveness without any kind of experience through our endeavor is known as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. If we perceive only the blissfully ecstatic state of Anandamaya Kosha without perceiving anything else, then we call that as Bhava Samadhi. All these are the expressions of the traits of our mind. Even though the source of all these is our Chit aspect, all the expressions are perceived as the traits of the mind and the sensory perceptions. As far as the Chit aspect is concerned, it is just a source of all the experiences, but not an experience in itself. It is not an unique experience. The Shastras that describe the Chit aspect of the Atma and the Brahman in various ways pass on a conclusion like this. One whose mind does no longer dwell on whether he knows Brahman or not, but who remains identified with pure consciousness or knowledge is not merely a knower. That man whose mind is not subject to distraction is not merely a knower of Brahman, but Brahman itself. So declare the sages versed in the scriptures of Vedanta. Panchadasi 4.6867. Chit aspect, that is, the Atma, does not forget itself once and then again knows itself. Atma does not attain mukti after having been in the samsara. The one who thinks that he is the jiva, individual self, only has to attain mukti. Not giving importance to the expression of jiva and giving total freedom to the function of jiva is liberation. Not giving importance to jiva means giving importance to the original Chit, Atma. Chit aspect alone shines through our perceptions of body and mind. Chit aspect is expressed as a bodily consciousness and psychological consciousness. There are both pleasure and pain feelings in our senses. Some of our bodily perceptions are likable and some of them are not likable. For example, let's take our tongue. Sweet taste makes our tongue happy. Bitter taste causes strain. Due to this, our tongue does not argue saying, I will express only sweetness, not the bitterness. But our mind that acts along with our senses accepts all the sensory consumptions as its own consumptions and likes to keep some perceptions and abandon some. Chit aspect does not have an issue, so it does not need mukti, liberation. Senses do not seek liberation even though there are problems in the sensory perceptions. We saw that our chit aspect acts as 4 levels, 4 layers. Chit aspect existing as chit aspect itself is the first layer. Senses act in the second layer. We come across a person while walking on the road. Using our senses, we see him, his image. These are the sensory experiences that occur in the second layer. We understand that person whom we saw as our close friend through our mind and the recordings in the mind. This is the third layer. Having understood the person whom we saw as our close friend, we receive an experience of happiness, a vivacious feeling, and the satisfaction of having met an important person. These kinds of experiences occur in the fourth layer. In all these 4 layers, where is samsara, bondage, attachment, problem? First 2 layers are natural. They will be like that. They will act like that. Changes are not possible there. Third and fourth layers are artificial. There is artificiality mixed with naturality. Chit aspect emerges like a perceptive trait in our senses and in our sensory mind. Even in the senses that act in the second layer, this perceptive trait, this knowing nature, this awareness, this chit aspect only acts through senses. Our senses will act like this irrespective of whether mukti is attained or not. The job of the senses is to show as it is the reflection of what our senses encounter. There is no relationship between mukti and the job of the senses. Likewise, there is no relationship between samsara and the senses. Irrespective of whether we are in bondage or in liberation, our mind in the third layer distinguishes each and everything through its memories. First 2 layers are natural, so it is common for all. Senses of all of us act in the same way. But this third layer, mind, is not natural. This is artificial. The first and second layers are living reality. Third layer is made up of memories. Memory means dead things. In the third layer, living things take the role of dead things. Chit takes the role of jatam. Atma takes the role of anatma. Rope takes the role of a snake. This acts for everyone based on the memories stored using individual experiences. Here, our contribution of memory is high, so it is artificial. Our eyes show the reflection of a person it encounters. You understand him as your friend. I identify him as a person undesirable to me. That person becomes a friend to you, but undesirable to me. You become happy because you met him, but I get a hatred feeling. All this varies from person to person. You will get experiences based on the mental recordings. I get experiences based on my mental recordings. These recordings bring happiness to us and also distress. Only due to this, we come to know that our freedom has been snatched away and we are bonded. It is here that we need freedom, liberation. Our mukti, liberation, is all about our third and fourth layer. Chapter 4. Viveka and Vairagya. A commander-in-chief of a country admitted his 2 sons in a Gurukul. residential school in India with pupils living near the Guru. Both the children received all kinds of education from the Gurukul by rendering their services to the Guru. The commander used to visit the Gurukul once in a while to see his children in the Gurukul. He told the children about his responsibility only when the children started getting the awareness. Children, our country has been invaded by the king of an enemy country. The king of our country has been absconding along with the minister. I have also gone underground. I have to save our country from the enemy and hand it over to our king. I have been putting in the entire endeavor that I can. In case I fail to fulfill my responsibility in my lifetime, you should assume my responsibility to save the country and hand over to our king. That is the request from this father. The commander explained the situation and the responsibility of his children clearly in detail. The children also understood the need of the hour and enhanced their skills quickly. They joined hands with their father and saved the country from the enemy very easily. Now there is only one duty that is left to be completed: to find out the whereabouts of the king and the minister and hand over the kingdom to them. The left out work was completed by the father himself. He told his children, "Please forgive me. In order to save you both and develop you, I lied to you saying that I was your father. You are not really my children. The elder one among you is the prince and the younger one is the son of the minister. The king and the minister were killed by the enemy. I hid that from you. Only you are privileged to rule this country. You have all the knowledge and skills required to rule this country as the king and the minister. I request that the elder become the king and the younger become the minister and save this country and the people." The commander went ahead and made the elder to assume as the king and the younger the minister of the kingdom. Viveka, wisdom, and Vairagya, detachment from worldly pleasures, have been portrayed as the servants to explore the soul. In truth, Viveka is the minister's son and Vairagya is the prince. Like finding out the king and handing over the kingdom to him, these two folks, Viveka and Vairagya, are trying to find out the Atma Sakshatkar, direct awareness of the self. In reality, they are the ones that are going to crown themselves. Sadhana Chatushtaya, the four means of salvation, are nothing but the juggling to deceive ourselves. Atma Sakshatkar, direct awareness of the self, is not the highest level that we need to attain. The highest level that we should attain is only Mukti, liberation. The highest level that we should attain is Jnana, enlightenment. Viveka denotes Jnana, enlightenment, and Vairagya denotes Mukti, liberation. Viveka and Vairagya appear to be the sadhanas, disciplines. In truth, they are not the devices, but they are the destination. They are the goals to be achieved. What is indicated by Viveka, wisdom, and Vairagya, detachment from the worldly pleasures? What is Viveka? What is Vairagya? Distinguishing Nitya, eternal, and Anitya, transience is wisdom. Distinguishing Atma from Anatma is Viveka. Distinguishing what is Atma and Anatma is wisdom. By discriminating this way, we get rid of deceptions and come into reality. We keep aside the Anatma and become Atma. Vairagya is keeping oneself away from the materialistic pleasures. Vairagya is dispassion for the pleasures of this world and of heaven. It is mental detachment from all worldly objects. Viveka and Vairagya are described this way. First, let us review what Viveka is. Distinction between Nitya, eternal, and Anitya, transience, is emphasized here. We are in front of a mirror. Our image reflects in the mirror. Reflection in the mirror is like a shadow. Actually, it is not an object. It is the reflective shadow of the object. We who stand in front of the mirror are the true object. The reflection seen in the mirror is not an object. It is only a mirror image. But that which is outside the mirror and what we see inside the mirror are ourselves. How do we split into two images when we were only one? In reality, we did not split into two. We are always one. What is seen inside the mirror is not another me. That is only the reflective image of mine. If you tell that image, as you resemble me, you go to the office instead of me, what will that image do? It will remain there. It doesn't act or move independently. But we are objects outside the mirror and can roam around freely as we wish. We can carry out all the necessary actions because we are not just illusions, not shadow. We can move around from there. We are the form of truth and reality. While we move, the image inside the mirror also can move. We are able to see ourselves as well as our reflective image. Is it difficult to find out which is true and which is not? Is there a challenge in finding out the object and the reflective image? We can very easily distinguish. It is possible even for a child to know the difference. Like this, can we know Nitya, eternal versus Anitya, transience? Atma versus Anatma? Is it really a difficult task to know the truth and the deception? Truth shall be obviously visible, shouldn't it? But is the truth visible like that? The person that is a true object in front of the mirror only sees this image in the mirror. The real person only sees both the true object and the image. Who is seeing the Atma and Anatma like this? Is it the Atma that sees itself and also its shadow like Anatma? Does the Atma only need Viveka, wisdom? Is it only required for the Atma to distinguish between the Atma and Anatma? In the same way, an effort is described in Vedanta philosophy. They describe this by classifying into three categories: Pasu, Atma, Pati, God, Supreme Self, and Pasa, delusion. Pasu is the Atma. Pati is all-pervading Supreme God. Pasa is delusion, bondage, ignorance that hampers the free expression of the spirit. As the Atma is connected with delusion, it is bonded. If it is connected with God, then it is detached from the bondage. We who hinge on the bondage are given the responsibility of being connected with God. Next question is, how to be connected with God? Where to go to see God? How to unify with God? Is it possible to know God? Is God an object to be known? The Vedanta philosophy says that God is not an object to be known. It is said that God is the life factor of one's life itself. Then, how to know God, who is inner life of one's life? How to hinge on to God? Vedanta also states that Atma and Anatma should be distinguished like this. Is it the Atma that distinguishes between Atma and Anatma? Or is it the Anatma that distinguishes between the Atma and Anatma? Does the Atma manifest in a confused state, or is it in a state of delusion? Is it hung onto attachment? Or is it the Anatma that is in attachment and ignorance? Atma is Chaitanya, a conscious factor. Anatma is Jatam, lifeless matter. We have already seen that there is neither issue in the Atma nor in the Anatma. We saw that there is an issue only in the aspect of Jiva, which is a combination of Atma and Anatma. We also saw that the Jiva is only hinging onto attachments, and that alone is trying to get rid of the bondages. Only Jiva should distinguish between the Atma and Anatma. Only Jiva should discriminate the nature of the Atma and Anatma that is manifested in us. What is the nature of our Atma and Anatma that are manifest in us? Chit aspect is the Atma. When Chit aspect, awareness, manifests either as body consciousness or as mind consciousness, it is actually attributed to the non-conscious factor, Anatma. We looked at the Chit aspect in 4 levels. Only the first level out of the 4 is actually the Chit. Rest of the 3 levels are just the expositions of the Anatma. Is it the Atma or Anatma that has the ability to discriminate this way? The ability to discriminate this way lies only with Anatma. Only the Anatma has the ability to discriminate and classify them. Viveka is not related to Atma. It is related to Anatma. Anatma does not have the power to know Chit. Anatma, with the knowledge gained, can only assume the thing that it does not know or which does not come under its purview. Chit aspect, which is the first level, did not demonstrate itself, nor did it demonstrate to others about its nature, its power and its form. The senses and the mind, which act based on the source of Chit only, try to explain the Chit. Anatma only tries to understand Chit through 6 pramanas, different means of acquiring knowledge. Pramana is valid means for acquiring knowledge. There are 6 of these: perception, inference, scriptural or verbal testimony, analogy, presumption and non-apprehension. We looked at these 6 different pramanas in the 6th chapter of part 1. Here, we need the 6th means of pramana, that is based on the Aptavakya, trustworthy declarations. We need to accept the Chit aspect through the Vedic testimonies and the trustworthy declarations of the scholars. In the absence of an explanation available for the aspect Chit, which is eternal, to prove itself as eternity, even we, who are the Jiva, are unable to understand and explain the eternal forms of the Chit aspect. All that we know is that the body and the mind that act based on the Anatma are always changing. We see the body change. We see thoughts come and go. We see the emotions of the body and the mind come and go. We are able to see all this directly. These remain as our own experiences that we can know and understand. We can very clearly see that whatever that is within the boundaries of our experience are bound to change. There is no doubt about that. But can we know the unchanging Nitya eternal with the help of continuously changing Anitya transience? We can assume something using some reasonable causes. Assumptions are always transient. It is not compulsory that all assumptions may be true. They may be right or wrong. What is the necessity for us to assume and understand about this Chit aspect? Why is it necessary to assume that our natural state, the real form of the Atma, is eternal? Can we stop all the effort put in towards earning our food just based on the conclusion that we are immortals? In what way does the understanding that Chit aspect alone is eternal help? It is of primary importance to know that all Anatmas are transient. Freedom from the clutches of Anatma can be attained only when the transience is boycotted as transient. The fact that there is something eternal, Nitya, exists helps us to get rid of the clutches of Anitya. If we are climbing the staircase, we lift the leg from the first stair only when we keep the other leg on the second step. Something is required to keep the foothold if we need to detach from something. Our life is designed like that. Our lifestyle and our way of life are designed like that. we need something or other to cling on to. The Chit aspect that is in the first level did not require any solution for this. Only the nature of the mind that is in the third and fourth levels need solutions. It is this nature of the mind that acts to attain its own solution, tries to cling on to know the Chit aspect which is in the first level. This nature of the mind clings on to the Chit factor for the sake of its own solution. Because the first level does not fall under its boundaries, our mind seeks the assistance of pramanas, that is, the 6 different means of acquiring knowledge. We have already seen the activities of the mind. We own all the experiences from the reflections in our senses that act as the second level. We identify and understand everything in the third level by recording such reflections and converting them to memories. This third part contacts with everything that comes across by converting them into the mental forms. This mind also converts all the feelings that occur in the senses into psychological aspect. Even when it approaches something unknown, it connects psychologically based on the information it has gathered. In this way, be it Atma or Brahman or Chit factor, this third part, mind functions based on its knowledge gained through the psychological assumptions. Having been accustomed to connect through assumptions and reasoning, it also becomes easy for us to assume the Atma. As Shastras and many masters do support this reasoning and assumption, this also becomes vital. Because of this, some people get a feeling of mental satisfaction that they have known something that cannot be known. Outcome? They too get liberated. We cannot underestimate this kind of mukti. The mukti that they have attained is a real one, a complete one. Is it possible to attain mukti by this way of reasoning? Entire aspect of surrender is based on this assumption. Whatever attribute our surrender is based on, if it is based on total faith, it creates a state of mukti, liberation. Many great masters have attained this state of liberation through this surrender. Even knowing the Chit aspect through assumption becomes useful. How is it possible? It is possible because all our bondages are made of assumption. When there are no assumption, where is the question of having bondage, samsara, issues? So, the assumption that we do based on the Chit factor also helps us, gives solutions. Nitya, real eternity cannot be understood. It cannot be known. We can only understand the assumed eternity. We can assume the knowledge gained. But we do not like the term assumption. So, we set this term out. We become very happy to term this assumption as discriminative intelligence. Discriminative intelligence really means assumptions. Wisdom is nothing but a building constructed with the memories made from the experiences that are dead. Everything that we know through memories is nothing but assumption. They are not real. Sometimes they may harmonize with reality. Sometimes they may miss the reality. A friend had sent some messages from his mobile phone. Add 40 to the number 1000. After that, add another 1000. Then add 30. Add another 1000. Add a 20 with that. Add another 1000. Finally, add a 10 to that. How much will the sum be? 5000, right? But do this sum in the calculator. You will know the fact. There was another thoughtful scoop like this from his mobile phone. Mary's father had 5 daughters. He was passionate towards English grammar. He named his first daughter Nana, second one Nene, third one Nini, and the fourth one is Nono. What name would he have given to the fifth daughter? Nunu. You will understand whose father is naming like this if you read it once again. Our knowledge helps, but it comes to some conclusions hastily. Hence, the reality is also ignored. Reality is to know things as they are. In fact, it is not possible to know an object the way it is. We think that we are looking at a tree in front of us and that the tree is real truth. Do we know the reality of the tree really? Nobody can know the tree for real. We only know it through the reflections of the tree in our eyes. So, we assume the tree based on the reflection that is caused in the eyes. We feel the heat when we touch the fire. What is it that we feel? Is it the fire or the sense that reflects in the hands? We cannot know any object directly. We can only know the reflection that the object creates in our body and in the senses. The perceptions that is caused in the senses creates another reflection in our mind. It is this second reflection that we use to name and discriminate every object. Each reflection of ours is a kind of assumption only. First assumption is that of sensory perceptions. Psychological assumption is the second one. All our actions are some forms of assumption only. So, we need not consider that as inferior. To act in conjunction with assumption is our real action. Our cars are fitted with rear view mirrors so that we see the vehicles coming behind our car. We see the vehicles coming behind us with the help of those rear view mirrors. Whenever we reverse the car, these rear view mirrors only help us a lot. Likewise, we need to connect with the real world through assumption only. If assumptions do not help us, we may not be able to understand anything through our thoughts. Understanding is nothing but knowing through assumptions. Now, how to know something that is beyond assumption? How to know the eternal form of Chit, which is the source for everything? Can the sky be measured with the help of a half-foot ruler? It can only be imagined that sky can be measured with the ruler. In fact, Viveka does not mean to know the eternity Nitya. Actually, giving significance to eternity is to get away from the attachment with Anitya, transient things, through the understanding of the transient nature of transience. Unifying with Pati, God, the absolute consciousness, is nothing but getting freedom from pasa, bondages. Pati, God, the Supreme Self, is not an object to be known, not an object to be obtained. We may be dependent on the bondages or we may be free of bondages. When we attain the bondage-free state, we are with Pati, the basic life of our life. It is the source of everything, base of everything. Viveka, in fact, is nothing but understanding this bondage, pasa. Within the reach of our limited knowledge, understanding what eternity is and what transience is, Viveka wisdom. This Viveka is sufficient. We need not have to confuse ourselves thinking that a different kind of discriminative wisdom is necessary. What we are going to see henceforth is the core section of this book. This is the core of human life. Upanishads and the Siddhanta philosophies are attempting to explain this. The help of Viveka is needed to understand this. Is this that difficult? No, it is simple. Very, very simple. That is why we miss this very easily. Viveka helps in understanding this correctly without missing out anything. This special core section is Vairagya. This is the prince that was admitted in the Gurukul by the commander-in-chief. We are going to crown this prince as the king. What is this Vairagya? Iga amudra bhoge viragaga Vairagya. Vairagya is detachment from the worldly pleasures. It is dispassion for the pleasures of this world and of heaven. Vairagya is nothing but keeping away from the indulgences of luxuries of this world and the other heavenly world. This is how the Shastras, sacred scriptures, explain. It appears as if nothing is so significant in this Vairagya. It looks very dry without any interesting object. But the mystery of human life is contained in this. The mystery of spiritual life is contained in this. What is so special in keeping away from the luxuries and pleasures? Is the life complete without these luxuries and pleasures? A middle-aged person did a medical checkup for him. He did not have any disease. He sought advice from the doctor. What ways and means that I should follow in life to live for 100 years? The doctor wanted to know his lifestyle of activities. By knowing that, the doctor can actually give advice for a healthy life. Do you have the habit of drinking? No, no one drinks in our family. Do you have the habit of smoking? No, not that even. Do you like eating meat? No, we are vegetarians. We do not eat meat. Do you like eating fried food? No, never we eat fried items. Affair with ladies? No, I do not have such desires. Do you attend entertainment programs and keep yourself awake for a long time without sleeping? I do not attend entertainment programs at all. Now the doctor sits upright and asks the person, then what will you achieve by living for 100 years? What is life without such luxuries and pleasures? Is that mundane life without any entertainment called Vairagya? We enjoy various pleasures through our body and mind. We have only heard of heaven and hell, but we really do not know anything about the luxuries and pleasures available there. How to be free of all these unknown pleasures? Suppose there is a delicious food available. We relish that food. Relishing that food like this is a pleasure to us. We come into contact with such a food by tasting it. We connect with it through our desire. Instead of connecting with the food through our desire, if we connect with Vairagya, detachment, do we get the pleasure? We know what it means to come into contact with the substance with our desire. We do not understand what is meant by approaching the substance with Vairagya. Desiring for food for its taste is nothing but involving with the desire. Connecting with the food in the absence of a desire for its taste without involving in the food is like connecting with Vairagya. The comfort and pleasure you receive by approaching the food with Vairagya is 100 times superior to the comfort you get by approaching the food with desire. Experts of Shastras explain this way. We easily understand what is meant by seeking pleasure by approaching a substance with desire. But we never understand what is meant by seeking pleasure by approaching a substance with Vairagya. Could they probably have wrongly said that it is 100 times better? Definitely, they have said it wrongly. They have said it wrongly in haste. The statement that it is 100 times better is wrong. It will only be right if it is said that it is 1000 times better. What kind of explanation is this? This explanation is something that is practically impossible. What to do? It is like that. Suppose you are asked to choose any one opportunity out of two different opportunities given to you. First opportunity is like this. You will face pleasures and distress. Both will show up on you. You will be happy when pleasure surfaces. You wish that happiness should last forever and it should not go away from you. You become sad when you face distress. You are just not able to tolerate that and break down. Even after the suffering has gone away, you dread that it may come back again. This is the first opportunity. Next is the second opportunity. Like the first opportunity, you will face happiness and suffering here also. You are happy when you receive pleasure and become sad when you receive distress. But you accept both easily. You are not dreadful that the happiness will go away. Similarly, you are not dreadful that the distress may surface back. All kinds of experiences are here, but we are not attached to any experience. We set those experiences free. Those experiences also set us free. We get trapped in the clutches of the pleasures when we are in a mood thinking there should be only happiness, never any distress. We set ourselves free from the clutches of the pleasures when we are ready to accept the suffering also. When we are given these two opportunities, which one will we choose? When our mind acts in two different ways like these, which one would we prefer? Let us read these two kinds of activities once again and then decide. Both happiness and distress have full control on you in the first situation. You are tattered between both. The second situation also has both happiness and distress, but they do not have any control on you. Of these two, which one will you choose? Action of the second kind is known as action with Vairagya. Becoming free from the clutches of pleasure is Vairagya. The moment we are free from the clutches of pleasure, we are free from the clutches of suffering too. In the first situation, we become slaves of pleasure and distress. We are not slaves to anything in the second situation. An intelligent person will choose the second situation only. This second state is what is known as the state of Vairagya. The first state is the materialistic state full of bondages, samsara. Do we call choosing the second state as Vairagya? Does acting with Vairagya mean choosing this second state? No, definitely not. Choosing this second state is not Vairagya. We go to shop to buy things. If there is a shop, there will be many things available. There may be things that we need and things that we do not need. We choose only what we need. We bring them home after paying the necessary money for that. Should we choose a mind that acts with this kind of Vairagya? Do we follow Vairagya by choosing that way? Because Vairagya is described as one of the sadhana's disciplines, when we say one of the spiritual disciplines, should there not be space for effort and practices? Should we bring up this state by adhering to spiritual discipline sadhana? Only after necessary effort is put to practice the sadhana chatushtaya, 4 means of salvation, we understand our natural state of Atma through which we attain mukti. This is how it is explained. It is not true. All this is a drama that has been staged wrongly, but it is not a deceitful drama. It is a good drama that has been staged with good intention. But one should not be disappointed by believing that the drama is true. We cannot choose this second state, nor can we follow this as one of the spiritual disciplines to attain mukti. But there is no doubt that the explanation given for this second state is the state of Vairagya. That state of Vairagya is nothing but this second state. Total detachment towards the pleasure as well as the distress is the state of Vairagya. There is no doubt in that. If we have not chosen this, how to attain that? How to reach this second state? How to implement the state of Vairagya? Our normal natural state is this second state, the state of Vairagya. The state that happens when we do not choose anything is this second state, the state of Vairagya. Because whatever we choose, it will be an indication of having chosen pleasure only. Choosing pleasure is like ignoring distress. Similarly, ignoring distress is also like choosing pleasure. All our choices are against Vairagya, against the second state. We choose pleasure because of our ignorance. Hence, the normal state of Vairagya is ignored. Our ignorance is the cause of all our inner problems. Only if we get rid of this ignorance, we will not be choosing like this. It is very important to get rid of ignorance. Only when there is knowledge of what ignorance is, one can get rid of ignorance. Understanding through discrimination and assessment of everything with the help of our recorded memories is known as knowledge. If there is no such knowledge, if there is no such discrimination, it will not be possible to distinguish between a tree and a human. Discriminative knowledge is related to the outer physical world. It exists in order to carry out the external activities of the outer physical world. When we take this discriminatory knowledge to our inner psychological world, this discrimination itself becomes ignorance. It acts based on the discrimination where it is not needed. It chooses things where choice is not needed. Knowledge in the outer physical world becomes the ignorance in the inner psychological world. We see objects very clearly in daylight. All objects are visible clearly in sunlight. We understand that we can see things clearly in the sunlight. A day show is going on in the theatre. All the doors are closed and the entire theatre is dark. How will it be if we say, open the doors also? I want to see the movie in the sunlight. Light called the knowledge is needed for our life. It is needed for all our activities. We will not be able to carry out any action without knowledge. But the same knowledge becomes ignorance in the inner psychological world. If we bring knowledge to our inner psychological world, calculation will start setting in there. Hypocrisy sets in. Inner psychological world and the experiences of the inner psychological world are natural. Outer physical world is not like that. Outer physical world is made of actions. It is related to many others. Many others participate there. Inner psychological world acts only within our mind. Inner psychological world is nothing but the shadow experiences that we see in the mirror. We will not be able to create these shadows and manage them ourselves. It is enough if we understand and treat them as shadows. Discriminating these shadows called experiences with our rational as superior or inferior, good or bad, holy or disgraceful is ignorance. Considering ourselves as I am happens when we take our intellect within our mind. As far as the inner experience is concerned, only one experience occurs at a particular moment. Each experience stays for that moment only. New experience occurs each moment. Here, there is no experience as I or another one as occurring to me. When one gets angry, there is only anger. When someone is afraid of something, there is only fear. When there is distress, there is only distress. But when our knowledge enters inside, we understand by distinguishing these experiences as the fear that struck me, the anger that I got, and the distress that I suffered. Outcome? There occurs an inner crisis wherein the experience itself needs to run away from the experience. There occurs a crisis, a burden, wherein the experience itself needs to control and manage the experience. Life becomes a battlefield with search for happiness and expelling the distress. We call this as samsara bondage. We say we are in ajnana, ignorance. The reason behind all this ajnana is that we took our intellect to our inner psychological world. We falter without knowing that something which is admired and celebrated as intelligence has become ignorance here in the inner psychological world. Escaping from this intellect, this ignorance, is the only way to implement the state of vairagya. How to keep the intellect idle? Only when we discriminate, intellect acts. If we are unable to discriminate, intellect stops acting. Can we make the intellect indiscriminate? A prisoner has escaped from the jail. The jail guard starts searching for him. Does the prisoner have any easy identification mark? If there is something like that, he can easily be caught. He has shaved his head. This is his obvious identification. The guards who were searching for the prisoner with the shaven head kept on getting information about him. The guards continued to get reports that the prisoner was spotted here, spotted there, etc. The absconding prisoner went to Tirupati temple and mingled with the devotees there. Tirupati temple in India is well known for the practice of offering hair as a tribute to God, the Lord Balaji. Now, there was no information forthcoming on the prisoner. How to identify him with the shaven head when all the devotees in the temple are with shaven heads? If we paint all the experiences like this with the same color, the intellect will become inactive without the discriminatory power of choosing what is needed and what is not needed. What colors then can we paint all our experiences with? We do not need to paint anything new. Already in this way, many have painted with colors. Adi Shankara has also painted with such a color in his book Viveka Chudamani. What color? He has said all the experiences that we come across are the revelations of Chit aspect only. All our experiences are that of the Atma. Sarvam Brahmamayam. The universe is Brahman. He is all pervading. All is God's will. Like these, there are many approaches that have been formed which bring all our experiences under one color. As a result, we are unable to discriminate between necessary and unnecessary, good and bad, superior and inferior. In a state of this indiscrimination, our discriminative mind turns out to be idle. The discriminative intellect called Ajnana, ignorance, turns out to be idle. When intellect is idle, it does not try to activate the mind. It does not compel the mind to act. Our mental action too acts on itself without any interference of our intellect. The action that acts on itself the way it wants is called Vairagya. There is another name to this Vairagya. That is Mukti. That is freedom. That is liberation. Mukti and Vairagya are not different. Both are the same. This is a natural state. We cannot bring this Mukti, Moksha, freedom, awakening, liberation by hard work. It has been always with us naturally. There is no need to bring this by hard work. In fact, all our effort is interference to this, against this. Practicing Vairagya is against the nature. If Vairagya is natural, if we do not need to do anything with regard to that, then what is it that we need to do with regard to that? Is there anything that we need to do? Is there anything for us to do with regard to Vairagya? Our actions are until the Viveka. Only with the help of discriminatory power, we can understand what we need to understand. It is our duty to understand that we need to decide carefully with patience, composure, with an open mind. It is our responsibility. We saw that Viveka is nothing but discriminating Nitya from Anitya. We also saw that we will not be able to know the Nitya eternity. We also saw that everything that we come into contact with and experience is momentary, subject to change and can vanish. Viveka is seeing Anitya as Anitya, transient. We are able to understand that all our psychological experiences are transitory. What is so special in it to call it Viveka? Do we need to understand Anitya also in a special manner? Our target is to attain Mukti through an understanding of who am I. We call all the psychological attachments and sufferings as samsara and getting freedom from them as Mukti, liberations. Our experiences are the manifestations of the Chit aspect of the Atma. Only that Chit aspect is the source. Everything else is its manifestation. Only that Chit aspect, which is the source, is eternal Nitya. All its manifestations are Anitya, momentary, transient. Chit aspect cannot be understood by the manifestation it caused. It is not at all possible to know the Chit aspect. We have already seen this. Now, there are only the transient psychological experiences that were the manifestations of the Chit. What is the problem in the approach towards considering this transient nature as Anitya, transient? Instead of approaching this Anitya as Anitya, we approach that considering it as Nitya, eternal. How is that possible? Anitya is apparently visible. Maybe the Chit aspect, which is Nitya, eternal, is not so visible. But is it not so obvious that all our psychological experiences are transitory? How can we treat that as Nitya, eternal? But we consider that as Nitya, eternal only. So, once again, the discrimination of eternal and transient, Viveka of Nitya and Anitya are needed to be viewed here in a different dimension. What is that different dimension? How do we consider our transient psychological experiences as eternal? We board a stationary vehicle. Do we board a running vehicle? All our psychological experiences are Anitya only, running vehicles only. But unknowingly, we consider those experiences as Nitya, eternal. Unknowingly, we consider the running vehicle as stationary one. How is that possible? Unconsciously, we are interested to retain all the pleasurable experiences forever. What is the meaning of this? We take it for granted that there is a chance for all the happy experiences to stay with us permanently. Similarly, we wish that all the sufferings shall go away from us. What is the meaning of this? We misunderstand that the sufferings will stay with us eternally. We presume that if only we do something about it, it becomes transient and will go away from us. We understand like this unconsciously. We act based on the understanding that the psychological experiences are Nitya, eternal. This happens without our knowledge. Only happy experiences give us mental satisfaction. We try to make these pleasurable experiences permanent. All psychological experiences are like flowing river. What will happen if we try to block the gushing river? There will be a tug of war between us and the river. Only the tendency to pursue pleasure claims a permanent nature, eternity, Nitya. As far as our transient psychological experiences are concerned, this kind of seeking eternity in transience exists as a problem. Transience, Anitya, is not a problem. The effort to create eternity in transience is the problem. Seeking pleasure and indulging in pleasure is called as bhoga. The desire to have pleasure is gratification. That is the reason for searching Nitya, eternity, in Anitya, transient things. Knowing the truth of transience is seeing transience as transience. Knowing the truth of Anitya is seeing Anitya as Anitya. Trying to make a part of the transience as eternity is what causes a hindrance to see transience as transience. It prevents truth, brings problems, brings distress, causes attachment, causes bondages. As far as the inner emotions and experiences are concerned, there is nothing to search or attain. If we are searching for something, then it is the affinity towards pleasure. That is the effort to make it eternal. The tendency to attribute eternity in transience is wrong. Understanding that mistake is real Viveka. This real discrimination of transient and eternal things is a practical possibility which we all need. This is Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Viveka. As far as bhoga, pleasure is concerned, two different kinds of gratification are described: material pleasure and heavenly pleasure. It is enough if we understand these as bodily pleasure and psychological pleasure. All bodily pleasures can be considered as material pleasure. The pleasure obtained through our senses is material gratification. The happiness and composure that we derive from mind can be called heavenly gratification. Ecstatic states attained during meditation and so are also mind related. Even though we distinguish some of the experiences as our psychological experiences, they emerge with the help of the nervous system in our body. Even then, there is nothing wrong in distinguishing them as psychological experiences. In total, we cause hindrance in the movement of our experiences that are flowing like a river because of the desire towards pleasure. And understanding that it is right to keep away from the pleasure is Viveka. Thereby, a state of Vairagya functions freely. The state of Mukti, liberation, which does not remain in anything, functions freely. All the three words, Vairagya, freedom and Mukti, denote the same state. It indicates all our psychological experiences flowing like a gushing river without any hindrance. Vairagya is not any particular psychological emotion. Vairagya is not a particular psychological experience also. Vairagya is all about the psychological emotions and experiences that flow like a river. This is liberation. This is Mukti. Viveka, that is the reason behind this Mukti, is Jnana, enlightenment. Jnana and Viveka are the same. Vairagya and Mukti are the same. Searching for some strange Jnana or Mukti outside this is not a practical reality. Mukti is our natural state. It is not necessary to attain it. It is enough if the state of Mukti is understood and no hindrance is caused to that. Chapter 5. Chit Jada Granthi. What is Atma? Atma is described using many terms: intellect aspect, Chit intelligence aspect, awareness, consciousness, Turiya, non-dual state of consciousness, Sakshi, witness state, etc. It is also explained by another term, Chaitanya. Though there are many names to it, all these denote Atma only. Various things are kept in a dark room where there is no light at all. We do not see anything in that room because of the darkness. We light a candle. In the candlelight, everything in the room is visible to us. We are able to see the table. We are able to see the books on the table. We are able to see all these things only with the candlelight. Without the help of the candle, we will not be able to see the table. To see the table, we may need a candle. But what should be done to see the candle itself? Should another candle be brought to see the first candle? Not needed, because the candle has self-illumination. It can show itself through its own illumination. Something that has got this kind of self-illumination is called Atma or Chaitanya. A thing that does not have this self-illumination is called Jatam or lifeless matter. We have contact with many things. Of these, which ones have the property of expressing on their own? While walking, we slip and fall and injure our leg. There has been pain in the leg. How to know the pain? Through the light of a lamp? No, you do not need light to know the pain. The pain itself expresses on its own. It announces itself, and after announcing, it knows itself. A person says he is sad. Another person says he is cheerful. Is it possible to understand their feelings like sorrow and fear with the help of light? No, we cannot know these through light. But the emotions like sadness and fear are real and lively. All these emotions have the property of expressing by themselves. Our Atma, Chaitanya, Chit aspect alone functions as our bodily consciousness, emotions and psychological consciousness. The Chit aspect, awareness only exists as the foundation of all these expressed consciousness. The expressions of this Chit aspect, awareness, are the psychological emotions or the psychological consciousness. Consciousness, emotions, has its own individuality, but awareness doesn't have any individuality. Awareness is the source. The emotion that comes out of the source is consciousness. Consciousness, emotions have multiple forms. It exists as bodily consciousness such as cold, heat, pain, pleasure, etc. Similarly, emotions of mind also vary. Happiness, anger, like, dislike, etc. Awareness is not a multitude. It is just a single feature. Though consciousness exists in different forms, the base is only one. Basically, all our emotions are the forms of Chit, but only in their expression does the non-Chit or Asat aspect exist. We come across many thoughts. What is thought? Let us assume that we get the thought of our friend. He is not there in front of us. Only through a thought we think about him. We just imagine the presence of our friend who is not in front of us. All the details of our friend have been recorded in our memory. It is only through these recorded memories that the thoughts emanate. Only the completed events are recorded as memories like this. All those recordings are outdated and dead. They are only the ashes that remain. They are lifeless matter. They don't exist. They are aspects of Jatam. They are Asat aspects. But it is only through these recordings that the thoughts emanate. Is the thought that we get existential or non-existential? It is existential. It demonstrates its existence by itself. Thought has the Chit aspect. It has existential nature. It has Sat aspect. But the information that is contained in that does not have existence. They are outdated and dead memories. Consciousness has existential nature. Memory is something that does not have existentiality. When both these merge, it becomes a thought. Thought has existentiality. But all the information contained in that is just inanimate notes, just memories. Our thoughts are nothing but a combination of Chit aspect and the Jatam aspect. This combination is known as Granthi or knot. The combined knot of Chit and Jatam is called Chit Jada Granthi. Our thoughts are not awareness. Thoughts are the consciousness expressed from awareness. All our consciousness is Chit Jada Granthi. What is exposed to us is only consciousness, only Chit Jata Granthi. We get experiences of our mind as well as our body. All these experiences are nothing but consciousness, Chit Jada Granthi only. The psychological experiences and sensations are the expressions of the mind, which is a combination of the Jata and the Chit aspect. Similarly, the bodily experiences and emotions are the expressions of the body, which is a combination of the Jata and the Chit aspect. Though all these Granthis, knots, are the expressed consciousness, it is not only the Chit aspect. These are already expressed. Transient remain only for seconds. These appear and disappear in seconds. Even then, these are aspects of Chit based on Chit aspect. In each experience, Chit Jata Granthi, the inner aspect is nothing but Chit. It is Atma. It is Brahman. Only the external aspects are the expressed ones. These are the experiences. These are the messages, informative aspects. These are the events. These exist as the Jagam, the universe. The inner aspect exists as Brahman and the outer external aspect exists as Jagam. Each experience should be treated as Paramarthika Satya, spiritual truth in the inner psychological aspect. It should be treated as natural. The outer physical aspect of each experience should be treated as Vyavaharika Satya, practical truth. We do not need to streamline, regulate all our experiences. They are natural. They are forms of Brahman. The informative aspects of all our experiences are artificial. They exist in order to manage our situation. The worldly events can be regulated with these. Our actions can be regulated. All our experiences, Chit, Jada, Granthis are Brahman by themselves. Let us not find fault in them. Inner psychological aspect exists as Brahman only. Aham Brahmasmi. Chapter 6. Jivan Mukti. It is said that the goal of the spiritual world is to obtain Mukti. Mukti also means liberation, freedom or awakening. We say that Mukti is about getting freedom from samsara, the worldly affairs and the distress of mind. Vedanta talks about the ways in which freedom can be targeted. We should realize that we are the Atma. When we consider ourselves as Atma, we get rid of the problem. When we treat ourselves as body and Anatma, then only we feel that we are affected. An advertisement is shown like this. They show someone splashing water from a bucket on us. When we think that the splashed water may hit on us, they will show that the glass barrier between the water and us blocks the entire water. When we realize that there is no impact on the Atma, which is our natural state, we do not take responsibility for the distress of our mind and we get freedom from all such impacts. We get peace of mind by the absence of any such impacts on our mind. This is said to be freedom from samsara, bondage of worldly life and to attain mukti. But we had seen that we cannot feel and realize that we are the Atma. We also saw that we can only conclude based on the confirmation through our intellectual understanding that we ought to be the Atma. How far does this intellectual conclusion help us? Our issues related to samsara are nothing but our psychological experiences. These experiences of our mind become issues only when they cause problems and misery to us. If someone behaves indecently with us, the incident becomes an issue only when our mind suffers. It is not at all an issue when the mind does not suffer. Even when the external incident is problematic, it will not be treated as a problem as far as it does not cause misery to the mind. Mukti is something that is associated with the inner psychological mind and not with the outer physical world. What do we mean by mukti, liberation, that happens in the mind? What does it indicate when we say that we, as Jiva, should get freed from samsara? Among our psychological problems that are related to our mind, what is Jiva? What is the mukti of that Jiva? If we are in distress or fear, it affects us. We try to get rid of our distress or fear. If we are able to get rid of this distress and fear, does it mean that we have obtained mukti? Should we, Jiva, be freed of all the distress that is caused in our mind and from samsara? What is Jiva and what is samsara in us? We saw that we discriminate things using our thoughts. When we look at a tree, our thought enables us to discriminate that we and the tree are two different things. There is no separate thought to distinguish a tree and another separate thought to distinguish us. It is the same thought that distinguishes the two objects, us and the object that we see. In the same manner, our thoughts distinguish between the distress and happiness that we may face. It creates two different objects. One, the experience, and the other, the experiencer, the person who experiences. What occurs is only one experience. It may be distress or happiness, but when we know this through our thoughts, it becomes an experience by the experiencer. What happens next? The person who experiences that gets life. The experiencer is created. He intends to get rid of all those experiences. In reality, all the experiences are fresh every moment. Every moment one gets fresh thoughts. But there is a hallucination that there is someone that exists permanently. The experiencer gains strength till the moment he bears the burden of the responsibility to regulate and prune his experience. All experiences occur on their own and disappear on their own. We do not have to act upon that. Even though the experiencer understands this, he is not ready to keep quiet. He at least takes the new responsibility of giving freedom to the experiences. There will be two doors in many buses. What will happen when we try to alight the bus from the front door when we cling to the rear door? Similar is the situation when Jiva thinks of getting freed of samsara and distress. It is like trying to retain the experiencer but not the experience. The experiencer is also a part of the experience. But we all have a hallucination that there is someone as an experiencer who exists permanently apart from the experience. What we understand and feel in the name of Jiva is this experiencer only. But this experiencer himself is an experience only. In reality, there is only existence of the experience that appears and disappears. The appearance and disappearance of the experience alone exists. This experiencer exists as experience. This experience exists also as Jiva. It appears justified if we say we must aim at getting freed of all the distress and fear. But when we say we should get liberated from Jiva, it appears as a nonsense. But the true liberation happens only this way. Jiva getting freed of samsara is not Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti is the freedom that the Jiva attains from the Jiva itself. What should be done to be liberated from the Jiva? Whatever we do, liberation does not occur. On the contrary, whatever we do, responsibility will proceed. Burden will arise. Future will develop. Attachment occurs. Samsara ensues. Jiva gets strength because of the thoughts of getting freed of the attachment or samsara. When we think of liberating Jiva, one more Jiva who wants to liberate this Jiva is created. Responsibility alone creates Jiva. Responsibility alone creates future and attachment. As long as responsibility is there, there will be bonding and attachment, which is nothing but Jiva. Lack of responsibility removes the bonding and attachments of Jiva and liberates the Jiva. When do we take responsibility? Only when we need something to be achieved. What do we need? We should get what we like, or we should get rid of what we do not like. We like to retain pleasure and get rid of suffering and distress. This is what we need. We take responsibility only towards this necessity. Jiva gets strength as long as responsibility is with it. The bonding called Jiva is strengthened. The bonding and the attachment become laid back when the entire responsibility disappears. In the state of this loose bonding, Jiva gets liberated, gets sanctified, attains mukti, liberation. How to attain this responsibility-free state? Even the desire to attain this state also causes a responsibility. Hence, this state does not become a possibility through our desires and the effort we put in. Then, how does something that is not possible through our desires and effort become a possibility? Let us take another overview of how it becomes a possibility. How will a person without any responsibility be? How will such a person act? Please do not imagine the persons that do not want to take any kind of responsibility. How will a responsible person be when he has gotten rid of all the responsibilities? Let us say we are going for a walk in the evening. It is common that we do the walking through the streets where there is less traffic. Let us say we are going for a walk one day and we have a commitment to give a piece of cloth to the tailor shop that is on the way we usually go every day. The street is usually empty. But on this day, a part of the road is dug up to such an extent that we cannot enter the street. The only way to reach the tailor shop is to take a roundabout way through another street. Hence, giving that piece of cloth has become a work that day. We do it as a work. Let us look at this example in a different way. We go for walking in this manner every day. We take the usual route every day. But we do not have any kind of work on the way. No work like giving cloth to the tailor. The usual road has been dug up. It is not mandatory to enter that particular road. So, we leave that road and take a different road to continue our walking. In the first example, there is responsibility. The disruption caused in executing that responsibility gives us trouble. In the second example, we do not have any responsibility. Hence, there is a freedom in our action. We take it easy choosing the next street if the usual one is not fit for walking. We feel the freedom in the responsibility-free state. Thus, Jiva, which does not take any responsibility, grabs the freedom of being whatever way it wants to be. The I, which is the Jiva that has liberated, transforms into a stream. Similar to the way we allow the experiences to flow like a stream, we also leave the Jiva, the individual self, the experiencer, to flow as a stream. The transformation of this Jiva into a flowing stream is called Jivan Mukti, liberation of the Jiva. How does the Mukti of the Jiva become possible? If this Jiva considers itself as the form of Sat Chit Ananda, it does not take any responsibility. Our Jiva gets liberated because we believe ourselves as Atma by having faith in the truth and the logic that manifests in the Shastras, holy scriptures. It is sufficient if our mind that acts as Jiva considers itself as the form of Sat Chit Ananda in a language that is understandable. Our ordinary language is enough. In total, the center of the activities of the mind, the central part called the experiencer, the center called as the Jiva, shall act in total liberation, shall act like a freely flowing stream, or otherwise, as per the approach of Shastras, we should consider this Jiva called I, which comprises character and affair, as Anatma only. We should consider the nature of this Anatma as the snaky appearance of the rope or a shadow. Let the shadow be. What it be, we should give total freedom to the shadow, which is called I. We should remain without any responsibility, without any work, leaving the Jiva called I to act in any way it wants to act. As far as the inner psychological feelings are concerned, the psychological experiences are concerned, we can remain without any work. But will this apply to the external actions also? Can we remain without any responsibility or work? The psychological feelings and experiences cannot be distinguished as superior or inferior. They are all shadows, transient, deceptive appearances that come and go. We need not do anything about these. They come on its own and disappear on its own. But the external actions are not like these. They are not just appearances. Unlike the transient psychological emotions, external actions are very much real. The human beings and trees that we see are real, true and alive. Inner psychological happenings are all just deceptions and hallucinations. But outer physical happenings are real and true. Inner events are alterable on their own. We do not have any work there. But external actions are not like these. They are not transient mirages that appear and fade away. The psychological happenings and emotions of the inner world are like the rope appearing as a snake. It disappears when it gets light. But if we see a snake in the outer physical world, it is just not an image. If there is light, the image of the snake will be clearer. This snake that we see outwardly will go away only when we do something to shoo it away, because it is just not an impression. It is a true one. Let us now come to the next level. We either get fearful or sad. What do we do next? We feel that we have got fear or sorrow. We understand that we do not like that fear or sorrow. We like to get rid of the fear and sorrow. Fear and sorrow are the first level experience. The realization that these emotions have occurred in me is the second level experience. Fear and sorrow are the first level. I is the second level. Fear is just the experience. I is the experiencer. Please record this in your mind. Let us go to the next. Now, I really see a snake. This is an outer scene. This is an external event. Here, the snake is the first level. I that see the snake is the second level. I may see the snake or a tree or a mountain. We consider whatever we see as the first level. We consider ourselves as the second level. Now, let us look at both the outer and inner events collectively. The feature called I comes into contact with something or the other. As far as the inner scene is concerned, I is the experiencer. I feel the fear or despair as my inner psychological experience. This I, who is the experiencer, is the second level experience as far as the inner psychological world is concerned. Even for the outer physical world also, the I remains as the second level experience. As far as the outer physical world is concerned, this second level I remains as something that sees the snake or shoos away the snake, someone who is in action. In the inner psychological world, it is the experiencer. In the outer physical world, it is the doer, one who takes action. The inner experiences and the experiencer who experiences these are just an experience of the mind, the transient mental activity that comes and disappears. Who is this doer that acts in the outer physical world? Similar to the reality of the snake, does this person who acts, doer, who sees the snake and shoos it away, really exist? Whether the experience called I is caused by either the experiencer or the doer, both are psychological experiences only. Both are psychological aspects only, shadow aspects alone. Whether this jiva called I comes into contact with the inner psychological world or outer physical world, it is a transient image caused by the mind, a shadow image designed by our thoughts. This Jiva called I is not at all responsible for transforming and regulating the inner psychological world. Hence, he is free of responsibility as far as the inner psychological world is concerned. In the absence of any responsibility, his experiences disappear like a stream. He, who is the experiencer, also blends with the stream and disappears. But what is his state as far as the outer physical world is concerned? For the outer physical world, this Jiva has responsibilities. There are actions. He can transform and regulate only by actions. External activities do not become alright on their own. They become alright only when they are set right. As far as the outer physical world is concerned, actions are first level. The doer, who is the I, is the second level. For the inner psychological world, experience is the first level. The experiencer, who is the I, is the second level. Are the experiencer that has merged with the inner psychological world and the doer that has merged with the outer physical world different? Or are they same? Both are one. Call it the experiencer by coming into contact with the inner psychological world, or the doer by coming into contact with the outer physical world. Both are one and the same. The Jiva is a psychological aspect. I is also psychological aspect. When we are afraid, we feel that we are affected. When we are in despair, we feel that we are affected. Like these, we feel affected if the things that happen are not to our liking. We feel affected when our ideas are opposed. This person who is affected is Jiva, the individual self. It is essential that this Jiva gets mukti. This affected person only should get liberation. It is enough if he lets him free without taking any responsibility of managing himself. He will get freedom on his own. He will get liberation on his own. He need not establish himself as one who transforms the outer physical world. It is good for both the Jiva and his actions to let free without attaching much importance to him. The outer environment that we have come into contact may be problematic and challenging. It may continue to be an unresolved issue. But Jiva that is in contact with this issue is not true. Jiva is nothing but the psychological experience that occurs intermittently. Jiva is the aspect of Anatma, the non-conscious factor. It is the form of mind that is anitya, transient. The intermittent changes that occur in Jiva only can lead to the total liberation. It keeps changing that way. Shastras term this freedom of the Jiva as the dissolution of the self. This Jiva becoming a successful warrior in inner psychological world is not right. Jiva should always be ready to lose. As far as the inner psychological world is concerned, failure is success. Success is failure. Success is that Jiva exists as a stream. Getting freed of the permanent form is success. Attaining mukti is success. If Jiva attains liberation in this way, will it affect the actions to be taken in the outer physical world? If the doer attains liberation this way, will it affect the actions to be taken in the outer physical world? In reality, only when the doer attains liberation, the outer actions related to him get completed well. A liberated mind only helps in action. To attain mukti, Jiva only should understand itself. We have now come to know about whatever we wanted to know. If he fumbles this or that way, whatever we wanted to understand, Anatma, what shall we do next? The liberation also. Taittiriya Upanishad, liberation of what Jiva, we need to do. Individual self is possible only when there is confirmation and faith in its we need discovery. To do only this. It is enough if we understand truth. There is nothing to add there. It is not necessary that we need to keep the truth to ourselves. Once we understand the truth, we can share that with others too. What does this mean? Om. That is complete. This is complete. From the completeness comes the completeness. If completeness is taken away from completeness, only completeness remains. Om, peace, peace, peace. God is complete. Absolute consciousness is complete and this universe is complete. From the completeness comes the completeness. If completeness is taken away from completeness, only completeness remains. This is the meaning. What truth should we understand? What truth did we understand? The Shanti mantra of Ishavasya Upanishad articulates this way. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are in contact with this universe and the universal events. We can realize these only when we make these as our inner psychological experience. Fire and water are two different things. They are opposite in nature. But we know this by touching both these in different ways. This does not mean that we have two different types of hands. Hand is one, but the characteristic that we know is different. What is the purpose of knowing these two things differently? It is just to know an external thing in a different way. As far as our inner psychological world is concerned, all our psychological experiences are possible only with the Chit aspect, which is the first level. Everything that we know in our inner psychological world is the manifestation of the Chit aspect. There is no harm in touching the water that is outside, but this is not the case with fire. Fire will burn our hands. Hence, we should keep away from the fire. There is no need to stop touching water. So, it becomes necessary to accept one thing and reject the other thing. The actions for this also manifest in our inner psychological world. Hence, we accept the experience with water and reject the experience with fire. Thus, we act in two different ways within our inner psychological world. The entire purpose of this is to know how to face the external things or events. Just because our hands and mind acted in two different ways, we do not become two. All these inner actions are meant to reform the outer actions. All the psychological happenings are the manifestation of the Chit aspect. The psychological experiences that we experience are all just reflections. We do not need to reform these reflections. Looking at the mirror, we comb our hair. The hair seen in the mirror is also sloppy, but we do not need to reform the reflection seen in the mirror. Reflections seen in the mirror are only that of the mirror. Images that we see in the mirror are only that of the mirror. Only the sloppy hair that is seen outside the mirror needs to be combed. The reflection seen in the mirror can only aid us in combing our hair. Reflective images do not thus need any reforming. All our inner experiences, pleasure and pain, occur for the sake of the outer physical world and are meant to reform the outside events. Regulating the inner psychological world is not at all required. As far as the inner psychological world is concerned, everything is Chit aspect. It is sufficient for the inner psychological world to obtain peace by accepting that everything is infinite completeness. Here, it is just sufficient if we understand this. It is sufficient to understand the truth. It only appears that we have two different things in our inner psychological world, that we need transformation, that we have flaws, and that we need perfection. But this is only an illusion. In reality, everything is the manifestation of the chit aspect, characteristic of the completeness. It is not likely to have any flaw in the completeness. Whatever comes out of the completeness in whatever manner. Hence, there is no need to panic as far as our inner psychological world is concerned. It is just sufficient to understand this and be peaceful. We can understand this truth within us and share with others too by conversing with them. Satyam, the truth exists only for understanding and sharing with others. As far as the inner psychological world is concerned, everything is infinite and everything is good. Let us understand this. Let us share this with others. Should we consider the outer world without any divide like we do within our inner psychological world? We can consider the hand that touches the water and fire, the experience that it gets, as one. But that does not mean that water and fire are the same. Can we set fire in a place where we need to pour water? Can we pour water where we need to set fire? Outer physical world is full of diversities. It has good and bad, right and wrong, necessary and unnecessary, high and low. Everything is there. It has all the diversities. It is required there to do the good and avoid the bad, do the right and abstain from the wrong. The way we act in the outer physical world is called dharma. Dharma is a discipline. There is a discipline for all the actions. As far as Satya, the truth, is concerned, it is just sufficient to understand that. There is no need to act upon that. There is no need for any action there. But the outer physical world is not made this way. Mere understanding is not sufficient there. It is necessary to act upon the understanding. It is not possible to reform the actions by only talking and sharing. Only actions can transform actions. If we become hungry, we can remove the hunger only by taking food. It is absolutely mandatory to travel by vehicle if you want to go to places. It is not possible to treat the worldly events and actions as two different things. Only actions reform and fulfill the worldly events. A person used to grow a drumstick tree in his backyard. On an evening, he saw that a branch of the tree had been broken and removed. That branch had 7 to 8 drumsticks also. It was likely that the neighbor must have broken the branch that had leaves, flowers and drumsticks. His compound wall was close to the tree. He asked the neighbor. The neighbor and his wife told him that they had no idea about that. After they left, he asked their child, "What did you have today for lunch? What type of sambar and curry?" Sambar is a lentil-based vegetable stew. The child replied, "Today we had drumstick sambar, drumstick side dish, drumstick leaves fry and drumstick flour soup." Is the neighbor's behavior right here? Can we act in any way we want just to fulfill our desires? If everyone acts according to his own whims and fancies without following any discipline, how will the society be? Will it not be a shattered one? It is required that there is freedom in the outside activities. But all that should be within certain boundary of discipline. We call this discipline dharma, honesty, character, etc. All sins, virtues and the karmic actions happen only due to our outwardly deeds. Everyone who is a part of this society is bound to participate in the duties related to the society. All this is called Vyavaharika Satya. Dharma is nothing but this Vyavaharika Satya, worldly truth. Paramarthika Satya, spiritual truth, is called as Jnana, enlightenment, or Mukti, liberation. Both are truths. One is the truth to be understood. The other is the truth to be acted upon. We should not confuse ourselves by treating both these as the same. In spirituality, there is a practice called Arthavada. Arthavada is to create belief in a lie told for good purpose. Every religion and every institution based on trust and faith has a place for this Arthavada. Some may be adamantly sticking to something. They will be reluctant to face the world with an open mind. How to discipline them? Arthavada is meant for such people. It is the belief that we can destroy our sins by taking dip in the holy river Ganges. Is this a truth or a lie? It is said that taking dips in sacred waters and visiting some temples is virtue. Is it true? A person commits a murder. He has committed a punishable crime. He takes a dip in the holy river Ganges and says, I have taken a dip in the Ganges. All my sins have been pardoned. I have got rid of all the sins. Hence, no one shall convict me for committing this murder. No one shall punish me. How to treat this if he says so? If the sins are pardoned, where is the question of crime? How can the murderer be convicted then? How can he be punished? Does it mean that his sins are not pardoned if he is arrested even after he had the dip in the Ganges? Arthavada is not meant to be interpreted like this. One should believe that taking a dip in the Ganges pardons him of the sins. Due to this, one gets freedom at the mind level. Freedom of mind is mukti, liberation. It does not matter how it is obtained. Liberation is great. If Arthavada helps in that, we should accept that too. But we should not act upon this doing something about it. If we start indulging in too many interpretations, the building called Arthavada will collapse. It is utmost important to have belief and trust in the ideas of Arthavada, the people talking about that, and the scriptures relevant to that rather than interpreting. This kind of Arthavada concepts have been mentioned in many scriptures and even in Bhagavad Gita. Every action is carried out proceeds from me. You are just an aid. Ideas like these have been mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Everything is God's will. Everything happens according to what is destined. We should not have the freedom to desire. Many ideas like these are given. If we consider all these as truth related to the happenings within the inner psychological world, all these are true. These kinds of ideas that free us from the burden of responsibilities help in getting freedom to the inner psychological world. At the same time, these become a cause of obstruction for all the responsible actions in the outer physical world. It is very important to have freedom from the burden of responsibility and duties as far as the inner psychological world is concerned. The burden of duties is the poison there. As far as the outer physical world is concerned, responsibility and duties are the saviors of this world and make the world livable. Hence, Taittiriya Upanishad talks about these. Don't keep away from the things that do good to us. Don't keep away from good deeds. In a problematic situation or with a problematic person, if you are confused about what your responsibility is or how you should conduct yourself in that situation, you should follow the examples of scholars who, with a composed mind, with a free mind, without any indifference, conduct themselves thoughtfully. This is the secret of Vedas. This is God's command. It should be done this way. Our actions should be good. Earning from selling groceries is low. Earning from selling wine is huge. Groceries are the needs of life for all. There is nothing wrong in selling groceries. This is not the case with wine. There are chances that many will be addicted to wine and do harm. We should keep away from these things. Sometimes it is not possible to determine if what we are doing is good or bad. We work in an institution. Some of our colleagues may be fraudsters. They may be corrupt in what they do. We are in a situation that necessitates us to work with them. Now, we will not be in a position to decide clearly to what extent we should work together with them and in what situations should we keep away. In this situation, we should conduct ourselves in such a way a scholarly person conducts himself. As far as the inner psychological world is concerned, there is nothing good or bad, dharma or adharma. It is right to treat everything as a shadow. It is right to treat everything as a manifestation of the Chit aspect of God. What is needed there is to look at everything with equanimity. When we look at things with equanimity, we do not have to change anything there. When we do not implement any change there, natural change happens on its own. Its natural action is the state of mukti, liberation. As far as the external world is concerned, it is our responsibility to follow dharma. One should not look at things with equanimity there. One has to look at good and bad, high and low in a different perspective. Following and acting upon the good and the high is living with dharma. In this world of changing nature, everything should be filled with God. Experience and enjoy the world with such sacrificial ideologies. Love to live responsibly for 100 years, carrying out all the responsibilities. Responsibility does not imprison you. Thus, Ishavasya Upanishad also describes how one should live in the inner psychological and outer physical worlds and completes in this manner.